This episode of Off My Shelf contains coarse language and adult conversation. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, my name is Tracy James and welcome to Off My Shelf, a podcast about movies that are well off my shelf, where we go through my DVDs and talk about the movies in my collection. In this episode, Georgia Rowe joins me in continuing the discussion about superheroes with the X-Men. Welcome!
Hi. Hello.
Thank you for joining me today to do this.
I mean, you kind of bullied me into coming here and begged me, so.
Okay, first of all, it's completely the opposite. You bullied me into getting on the show.
No.
And then you picked this very complex episode, so.
First of all, you said, "Oh, I do a podcast." And I said, "What?" And then you asked everybody, and I was like, "Excuse me. We talk about movies on a continuous full together," and I was not asked. And I was like, "Well, you know what? That's fine, Tracy. Enjoy your day." And then you were like, "Oh my God, I need you as a guest on my show." And I was like, "You're welcome. I can squeeze you in. Dune sounds fine."
You can pretend that's how it happened. It's true if you believe it. Okay. That's all I'm saying. Mm-hmm.
Fake news, but okay. Fine.
But don't worry, I know you're real excited to be here. You're so excited to talk about these movies. And yeah, I mean, so far on these superheroes, we're just talking in general about superheroes. We've talked about Superman and Supergirl and Spider-Man so far. Previously talked about not within this series, but previously talked about Batman, all this kind of stuff. And I'm just very excited to talk about the X-Men because A, the X-Men are cool, and B, they're just such a vast number of them. Not just movies, but actual characters.
I mean, they were a starting point, but I would raise you Justice League Unlimited, but go off. There's so many of them. You're welcome.
So many of them. Sure. Okay, fine. Team ups are a big deal. Okay, yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Correct.
But when it comes to superheroes, where did you get your start with superheroes? Was it comic books? Was it movies? Was it TV shows? Do you remember?
Actually, yeah. Definitely waking up on those Saturday mornings, watching Fox Kids and all that kind of stuff. And weirdly enough, some of the X-Men would be on, or Justice League Unlimited, or Justice League, and I'd be like, I'm stoked. Or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So anything worldly and superhero, I was like, I'm sat. I'm ready. Let's go. And yeah, I was just like, I want something with a bigger storyline with cool characters and complex characters. And from then it was like, okay, you have my interest. And I loved also looking at how complex the drawings were, whether it would be from a comic or from the cartoon itself, and appreciating how the voice actors, and then getting older and seeing who those voice actors were. And I'm like, oh my God, no way. And I did a lot of them. And I'm like, oh wait, this is okay. That has me shook. So yeah, no, definitely a childhood type thing of interest that was piqued and kind of just kept going. As long as the content was good, I was set.
Got it. Yeah. Have you rewatched any of those old cartoons or anything?
For X-Men, I have not. And I don't know why, because I just haven't had the time. I mean, you know me, I have a very large list of TV shows that I watch. And I'm like,
yes.
Everyone was getting so ready for when 97 was coming back, or 87 was coming back, and they're like, oh my God, we gotta binge. It's finally out. We gotta watch it before the new show. And I'm like, me too. And then it came out, and I was like, I will get there at some point. Now it's been over a year or not, and I'm like,
yeah,
I will get there. It wasn't on the top of my priorities list. I love a good cartoon to have in the background or to watch. My brother even binge watched it, and he was good to go. But I was like, I'll get to it at some point. But it wasn't at the top of my faves. If it was maybe again Justice League, I would have definitely sat down and been like, watched, let's go. But
I'm gonna tell you this, you're wrong. But when
It's,
X-Men 97 came out, I was also supposed to binge watch the old X-Men
yes.
cartoon, but didn't get around to it. But I did watch the crap out of X-Men 97 and I loved it. So I feel like you don't have to like as long as you know who the characters are, which
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you do,
Yeah.
you'll be fine with just watching it without watching the old show. I don't see
No,
that
I
being a
was like, I
problem.
didn't need to like watch the old to be like, oh my God, I want to get like the full experience. It was just more like, I don't have the time. And I know it's like a really quick thing, and I could probably like put it on while I'm getting ready in the morning or like lounging in bed and watch an episode here or there. And I was like, I have a lot that I have to get through. And
You think so? I don't feel like that show had that few episodes.
I just feel like with the amount of content that I have to watch on my to-do list, I
Mhm.
couldn't squeeze it in. I'd probably get like one or like two or three episodes and I'd be like, okay. But we also like a lot of them are kind of like the same concept of story line essentially. And
Yes.
so it's like and I don't want to upset anyone by being like, well, you watch one, you watch them all. And I was just like, I want to watch them, but I was also just like, I don't have the time to be I'm like, I'm not in the state of mind to watch the cartoons at the moment, but I will get to it at some point. I'll find a child on an airplane and be like, let's watch this.
Okay. I mean, okay, so I looked it up. The original cartoon was on between 1992 and 1997, and it was
Why did I say
76
87?
episodes.
Sorry.
No, it's 92 to 97, yeah.
I want to make sure I said that correctly so that people don't go, what did she say? Continue.
She's like, she's wrong, she's lying,
I was
she
like,
doesn't
I
know
said it right the
anything.
first time and I said it wrong the second time. It's fine. I caught myself. We're
You
good.
corrected yourself incorrectly. I
I
love
did.
it. Yeah, no, I mean like like did you read the comics? I know you were more of a DC person, but did you read any of the comics?
Yeah, I read like when they had like I couldn't tell you specifically which ones. Like anytime I would go to the library and I would like grab like a stack of comics because those weren't the ones I was gonna end up buying. And I read them. I loved them. I loved again. I was like a really big fan of like the artwork. They were super simple, quick reads in a sense. So also like, but then I was also like transitioning more into like Archie. So I was like, I have more important things to do right now than,
Yes.
than watch Mutants. But yeah, no, I definitely read a couple of the comics and I was just like, I don't know who I would be. They actually spurred if I was to be a human with a superpower, like what superpower would you have? And I was just like, well, this one was cool. Well, that one's a little more difficult. And well, that one doesn't allow me to like blend in with everybody. And I'm like, oh my God, this is just so complicated. But yeah, no, it was like Sophie's choice with the stress level of making a decision of what I would have.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever decided. I know like I want to fly, but I'm like that just seems so mundane but cool at the same time, you know what I mean? Um, but also like I think I'd want to be like Mystique and be able to change into different things.
I was like, would you rather something physical, something mental, something emotional? And I'm like, do you like because it's like there's a difference between being Rogue versus being Kitty. And I'm like, there's a difference between, being Professor Xavier and, like or being Jean. And I'm like, okay, there's a lot going on here, or just something like Cyclops, Colossus. Like a lot of people have ones that can like kind of like jump in between, and other ones you're like, okay, I'm just stuck like this, i.e., Beast, but it's
Yeah.
okay. And it's like,
Yeah.
but they're all like the ones that are stuck. It's like they're super cool when they really know how to use it. But I'm like, I really don't know. And then I feel like I'd be like, something simple. I can like make an ice cube. So I'd probably be like Bobby. But Pyro was cool. So I was like, I can, yes, I can freeze things and
Yeah.
I hate cold.
You're like, I hate a tepid beverage. I just want to make it cold. Okay, that's
But I
it.
hate the cold, so I'm like, I don't know if I would do well with this. So I'm like, okay, maybe pyro. But then I'm like, if I stayed in school, I need to walk around with my lighter and make sure I can like set things on fire. That doesn't go well with my personality to have that power, but it's fine. These are thoughts that it was like constantly every 30 seconds you jump to something new, and that was my problem. I couldn't settle.
Well, no, because that's the thing. It's like you think about the power and then you also think about the negative of the
Yes.
power as well. You're like, but if I can do this, like, I don't want all that. But, like, for example, I'm like, would it be interesting to read minds? Yes. But do I actually want to know what people are thinking? Probably not, you
I get
know?
headaches. I can't sit there and listen to everybody's mind. What about the day I like lose control and I'm like hearing everybody and I'm like screaming, shut up? I would just be a crazy person on the street. But really, I'm like, no, no, I hear what you're saying. I don't agree, or I agree, or I just don't care. But it's like, shh.
So what you're saying is you being a crazy person on the street has nothing to do with psychic powers? This is shocking to me.
Yes.
Yes, got
Yes.
it. Okay.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. If
No
you see it,
worries.
just know that I've like come into my latent powers in life, and everyone's like, no, no, she's hearing thoughts. Whose thoughts we don't know. It's
When you
okay.
put your finger to your temple, you're like Charles Xavier. It's not that you're trying to soothe your headache. You're just like, no, I'm moving things with my mind.
Literally. I'm just like, you're about to ask me what I'm doing, and I just don't have the answer for you right now.
You're
That's
like,
it.
no, this is not what we're doing right now. I'm like, are you
See,
sure?
they get me.
I
Fine.
understand. I totally get it. She's crazy, everybody. Run away. It's fine. Yes.
So much, Tracy. Only one of us go on a subway and we know how to navigate this. This is why it sounds so natural for you.
Yes.
Me, I'm like, no, no, that's okay. Thanks.
Oh my
Where's my
God.
sage?
Oh God. You want to give me headaches. I get it. I
Yep.
get it.
So we can be in
Yes.
this together.
Yeah. All the pain. Love it. Yeah, no, I mean, so the DVD I own, why we can talk about this, is X2 X-Men United, the second X-Men movie ever to come out. And I looked into this and I was surprisingly shocked. There are 14 what I would consider X-Men movies, which is a lot.
Oh God. Okay, hold on, hold on. I want you to go through this list because is there more and you're just being like, I only classify it technically because you're anal retentive? Or are there actually 14 documented movies?
Well, you can't consider any of the movies in the
There we
MCU
go.
because they are not considered to be mutants. Whereas you can include the Deadpool movies because in
Yes.
the Deadpool movies they are mutants.
I want to know what this list is. Okay, so it's X-Men,
So
X2, Last Stand, the
X
Wolverine. Wait, what?
well, X-Men Origins Wolverine,
Yes, the
then
Wolverine.
the Wolverine, then it's X-Men First Class, then it's X-Men Days of Future Past, then it's X-Men Apocalypse and X-Men Dark Phoenix. Then you have the three Deadpool movies, then you have Logan, and then you have New Mutants. Did I say all of them? I think so.
You said 13.
No. So X-Men,
Yep, yep.
X2, X-Men Last Stand, X-Men Wolverine, Origins Wolverine, X-Men First Class, then The Wolverine, then Days of Future Past, then Deadpool, then X-Men Apocalypse, then Logan, then Deadpool 2, then X-Men Dark Phoenix, then The New Mutants, and Deadpool and Wolverine. That's 14. Do you
Allowed.
agree or do you agree or disagree with my list?
Only because of how many times we've had to debate this specific list. I unfortunately have to agree. Specifically, like Easter egg right there. But no, I definitely no. I think that aside from New Mutants and ones that we people don't necessarily care about, a lot of the movies, whether they were good or not, centered around also bringing in old and new characters and favorable characters from the comics. So technically, yeah, all of them they get classified regardless if they were like, we're just gonna reuse and just jump a timeline here. It's like at the end of the day, were there more than at least five mutants that everyone can name? Yes, then all right, then it's an X-Men movie.
Exactly. Agreed. I'm down with it. You
Of
know.
course you are. But you're like classified 14. I'm like, well, are there technically 18? And you're just like, I don't count these ones because that's something you would do.
Well, because well, except for the ones that had Scarlet Witch and what's his face in it in the
Oh,
MCU,
oh,
but they're
okay, okay, okay.
technically not mutants because they're
That's fair. Okay.
genetically enhanced, even though they are in non-MCU movies, they would have been mutants, which they are in like Days of Future Past and in Apocalypse and stuff.
Well, because what I mean, what am I thinking? I'm thinking Doctor Strange because Charles Xavier shows up in that one.
Yeah, but Doctor Strange is not a mutant.
No, but I yeah, technically yeah, but he does see the it's the also the beginning of the X-Men in there.
What?
Pastor Xavier's in that movie. That could technically be a part of the X-Men
Are
universe
you
right now.
talking about Multiverse of Madness?
Yes.
That does not count.
I
There,
mean,
no.
adjacent, it could have an
Oh
asterisk right
my God.
beside it,
You're
you know?
crazy. No.
See, and this is where we
Mm-mm.
go, anal retentive, where you're like, no, they'd
That
have to.
is no.
Wait, what would have had to happen for it to be classified as an X-Men movie?
Most of the movie had to take place in the universe where the X-Men existed.
But I mean, technically, he went to a universe where the X-Men existed.
For like a minute and a half, and they are immediately murdered.
I didn't say they had to last long. You just said they had to go to the universe. Look here, Tracy. I'm meeting your stipulations, and you're moving the goalpost at this rate. There's not
Look,
much I can do.
I said a majority of the movie has to end up there,
Ugh.
right?
I
Yeah.
want to go back and watch it just so I can time and see. I'll be like, actually, there's 22 minutes.
There's no way they're in that world for 22 minutes.
They're in the movie for a good chunk of the third act, you know? Yep.
No,
Yep. Yep.
they're not. Yeah.
Look,
Oh,
only one
no.
only one of us cared to really get that Disney Plus package and really go through the movie. So I think I'm a little more qualified to speak on this. And I'm gonna say Multiverse of Madness with an asterisk right beside it. Continue, Tracy.
Oh
Is there
my
any other
God.
movies that jump out at you that you're like, this could be, but it's not classified because it doesn't meet my qualifications?
Like I said, with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, there's those two movies where because Quicksilver is in the X-Men Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix, right? But it's technically a different Quicksilver.
There's a oh God. Oh, Tracy, Tracy, Tracy.
What, the ones in the MCU were genetically engineered based on Chitauri technology, and they lasted the trials, and that's where their powers came from. Whereas in, Days of Future Past and the X-Men movies, it's genetic mutation made Quicksilver happen, but Scarlet Witch is not in those movies, so I can't say what happened to her.
Oh, fine. Fine. Okay. 1 point to Tracy, but it's given begrudgingly. You're welcome. I concede only this time. Continue.
Just this time.
Just this
Oh,
time. I hope you got that. Just this
just
time.
this one time.
And I was
Okay,
like, fine,
got it.
you've made your case in point. I'll allow.
Right?
I'll allow.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I find like the movies are easy to separate. It's just that when stuff gets into the comic books,
Yeah.
because they're all part of the Marvel world, you
Yeah.
will get crossovers with like Spider-Man and Captain America and Wolverine and Xavier will come in and like all these like they'll just mix up characters all over the place and that's when it gets difficult. But the movies are relatively straightforward. Like they're straightforward.
You like that, but with a side note right now, with the way that Marvel's going, because they're going to be doing a lot of crossovers and pulling from like different comic book timelines. Does that argument still stand then? Because technically, because like I do feel like only a couple movies past Endgame will people be like, I feel like almost like it's a love letter to the fans, essentially, because a lot of us are going to come in and be like, I wasn't that diehard. I do not have every comic book known to man, every special edition, and, know the backstory and care or be like, this is this person, but he shows up as this person, and this is his other variation to know that hey, this could happen in this timeline. And to have that kind of like background is great because you're like, okay, I can rely on the comics. I know what's supposed to happen. I know what should happen. There's a lot of source material. But then you have people that are coming in or that never made it that far. Hello, hi, I'm Georgia. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch it, but I don't want to have to watch um different other streams of different other movies and TV series and read a bunch of books, even though like even when it comes to a regular random movie, I have no problem reading the book before a movie comes out to be like, okay, we're gonna compare. It's never gonna be as good, but we're gonna compare. But then it's like that's where you lose a lot of people because then you're trying to make a lot of people happy and sometimes it doesn't always translate to screen, but it also
Mhm.
makes it very difficult because then you're like, we're going this route. And it's like you will know all of the people, all the variations, all the different timelines, and you'll be like, this is why it makes sense. This is so cool. Whereas
Mhm.
I'll be like, I don't understand why she was set on fire and why they're in a field and why the field is red. What is happening? And you're like, you don't understand the
Well,
context.
No, well, that is a problem that they're having now. I think this is part of the reason why people are having superhero fatigue is the fact that before you watch a movie, you have to do homework to
Yes,
understand the movie. But I also find that Marvel was pretty good when they introduce a character, they're still very good at making that character's movie its own thing,
I will agree
right?
with that.
But it's as soon as that movie happens, then you have to know everything from that movie on to understand that character, right? Because that's the thing. Like you're describing multiverse of madness, but the reason why that part is confusing is because you had to watch Age of Ultron, you had to watch like all of the movies that came after Age of
Yeah.
Ultron when Wanda was introduced, plus the TV show to understand where that movie started. And you also would have had to watch, the Doctor Strange movie to understand where he's coming from, you
Yes.
know?
I do like they did have a good job, which is why like it just with them started was like us starting. I guess we'll bring it back to X-Men at this point, but to sit there and create a brand new franchise and be like, okay, well, we're gonna focus on the Wolverine and like his journey, and we're gonna introduce all of these characters that are gonna be they're so important and bring them all together. And it's like, okay, I'm coming in not knowing anyone, but it's like I'm learning people's powers. I'm learning about, his institution and the school and everything like that. And okay, what's going on with Logan? And okay, we're gonna be going on this long journey with him, which is why he's the most important out of this whole franchise per se, which is why they're like, we have to bring him back one more time. We got to bring him back. We got to bring him
Yeah.
back. And then I'm like, sir, I don't think anyone like you are the Wolverine, which is why it's going to be very hard for anyone to find anyone else. They haven't even tried to recast because they just know it's not worth it. He just did that good of a job. But um they like Marvel has been very good with like, okay, we're gonna start from scratch and really give everybody as if they're coming in on like the ground of they don't know anything and only give Easter eggs for the people that know a little bit more. But it doesn't seem like the people that don't know anything are like, I'm missing out on so much. It's like, okay, cool. Is when I go back and I watch it, it's like, oh, okay, I missed that, but I now understand what that means, and it kind of makes more sense. But whereas I would have to be on the third movie to understand what happened, like, and rewatch the first two and be like, okay, all these Easter eggs now make sense. You caught the Easter eggs initially, and you're like, you're late. You're like
Yeah.
you're two movies, three movies too late. So I think that that's an interesting thing, but it is definitely a super hero fatigue with like it's not really you're losing that groundwork to. I don't want to be ingesting so much superhero content that it's like I just want the one character. Why is it I'm so lost just watching the one character I like and I have no
Yeah.
idea what's going on here? But they have tried to reboot the franchise on two look on the
That's the thing. So rewatching, so I got as far as Days of Future Past in my rewatch. I don't really have to rewatch the other movies. I do remember them, except for maybe Dark Phoenix, where I was like, oh, I don't
I
remember.
always forget that that movie came out. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
I
I
think I stop at
definitely
Apocalypse and then I'm like, oh right.
I watched every single one of these movies in the theater. I remember doing that.
I did too.
Um, I remember watching Dark Phoenix and New Mutants were the only two movies I was mad about. The rest, I mean, like, even like, no, that's a lie. Origins Wolverine, that one was pretty brutal. Sorry. Because I had to defend the character of Deadpool for 7 years before the Deadpool movie came out, okay? Because Deadpool was my favorite character
With a lot of people.
until like then Origins Wolverine came out and I was like Deadpool's gonna be in it and then Deadpool shows up and I was like what the fuck is that? That is not Deadpool. I don't know what is going on here. This is bullshit. And then I was like that's your favorite character? That's so lame. I'm like that's not fucking Deadpool. For 7 years I had to yell that's not fucking Deadpool all the time.
I
Like it's
do remember
crazy.
being in the theaters and I was just like, I'm going into it. It's fine. Like everyone, it's so funny watching Will I Am be in movies, and I'm like, I forget that you randomly do cameos of acting here and there.
But he was
I'm
like
like, cool.
surprisingly, he was the worst part. Like it was not a good movie, but then he showed up and it got worse somehow when he started talking. I was like, "What are you doing?"
Like, why is he a cowboy? It's like,
I don't
okay,
know.
okay. This is interesting. Um, because yeah, there was so much going on in that movie, a lot. But it was funny though to hear the collective sigh and letdown when Deadpool's character came in, and then when they redid him and completely took out the mouth, and
Mhm.
everyone going, "What the fuck?"
Well, no, but that's the thing. So when Ryan Reynolds shows up as Wade, I was
Yeah.
like, this is fine. That part was fine,
Which is
right?
everyone was like, "Yeah, okay, okay."
Yeah, this
But
could
yeah,
work. This could work. And then we knew he was coming in the back in the end to like fight. We knew that was gonna happen. We're like, oh, he's gonna show up. And then what is it? Stryker makes a comment about, getting the genetic material together from dead mutants, like creating like a pool, like a dead pool. And I was like, no, no, where is this going? This is not right. And then you see this thing come out with blades in its arms, and it has no mouth, and for some reason no eyelids. And I was like, what? Why is he teleporting places? What is going on? Like, this makes
I
no
mean,
sense.
I understood the teleporting because technically in the comics, he would just show up in random spots. I was like, I get what you were trying to do there. It's fine. Plus for effort.
No, no.
I know how much you hate it, but it's okay. A plus for effort. It's
A
fine,
plus
Tracy.
for asinine. Like, what? No.
Like
It
they
was
had a
so
lot of
bad.
promise and things to work in. It's like every way they could have gone wrong with this movie, they really did, which is why I was just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, they never even revisit his love story there. And I was like, is she dead? I
Yeah,
mean,
she's dead.
I
That
know
was the
she
whole
is
point.
dead, but I was just like, they almost left it like it was going to be open ended. And I was just like, oh, okay. Well,
No,
is
but
it?
he got shot in the head, so his memories
No,
went
that I
away.
know, Tracy.
But
That
then
is how everything starts. It was supposed to be a full circle moment, Tracy. I
But the
understood
thing
that.
that bothers me about it is that it can't be a full circle moment because Xavier helps him with his memory. Like in the movies that came before, Xavier helped him with his memory. So how come in his memory this girl didn't show up in his memory in any way, shape, or form?
Was she like took it away? She was never
He,
really there to begin with.
but
Everything was fake.
also he
No,
forgot that Sabretooth was his brother
I would
until that
forget that
movie.
too. That man like tried to kill me like how many countless times and brought me into a bunch of wars. I would forget that man too. So he left the toxicity with his memory loss, and I was like, I'm here for that. It's fine. It's cool.
He
It's
was like,
cool.
None of this badness. I don't need this."
What Xavier? You know what? Xavier decided to do just like he did with Jean and kind of like put him in a mind palace and clean it up a little. And he's like, "This is what you need to know, and we're gonna keep the bad away. And if you remember things, you remember. If you don't, who would want to remember that movie? Even he didn't. It's fine."
Yeah, no, even he didn't want to remember that. It was like, I am out, thank you. Let's see. No, because I was wondering when the actual Wolverine Origins came out. And it was, yeah, June 2006. It was
2009.
right 2000, the comic book?
Oh, you're talking about the comp. Sorry,
I'm
continue.
talking about well, because this is one of the reasons why they called it Origins, because they're gonna show him with his bone claws. It was the first time we got to see he had bone claws first before he had adamantium put into him. It was
Yes.
like cool, but where did he get these bone claws? They did not go over where he got his name Logan, because in the comic books he accidentally kills a kid named Logan, and his penance is to take his name. That's where he gets it from. But in the movie, they did not. They explained Wolverine because of like the love story, but they don't explain Logan. And I was like, I thought his name was
They could
James.
only go with so much morbid for the movie. Only you fans, like diehard fans, would be like, no, we need all of the angst, all of the depression and negativeness in this movie, and it's gonna be awesome. Do you guys like being tortured? Like, are you okay? You guys are sadists at this rate. Like, this is not okay.
I honestly think I am a sadist because I get up and pay to watch all of these movies just so I can bitch about them half the
I
time.
oh, honestly, my favorite part is anytime we're in a movie together and just on when I know that I'm not going to enjoy the movie. I enjoy either if you're sitting across from me, watching your facial expressions and how many times you can sigh, or if I'm sitting beside you, just like turning my head all the way and just being like, "You okay?" And you're like, you shake your head, you get so upset. It's like, it's like. this is awful. You're like, whether it's a love scene and you're like, whether it's like someone's
I'm
dying
sitting
and you're
there
like,
because I
Tracy.
have to take mental notes so I can write my essay after I walk out the movie. The reasons why this movie is bad. One, like
But I think it would be easier if you were to write down some really good points of the movie. And I don't think you could do it because for you, you're like a critic and it's just like, this was bad. This was bad. You should be one of those people that, you should be a driving instructor, but not, sorry, not instructor. One of those ones that like you do the driver's test and they're like, you missed the sign. That's a fail. It's like, that's a fail. That is what you give. It's like, there's no pleasing you aside from you making it alive back to the starting point. That's it. And that you're like, you literally failed everything. Try again next time. And it's like,
I am not that bad about this.
I love how there are plenty of people who can raise their hands and be like, what movie? The fact that you've been asked on more than one occasion, what movies do you like? Because you're like, that's awful. That's awful. That sucks. That sucks. You just rip everything apart and things that you like. I'm like, are you okay? Like, yes, sadist. Are you
What?
okay?
No, I am not a sadist. I am sorry. Am I a glutton for punishment? Yes,
Oh
because
my God.
I'm sorry. I cannot complain about something unless I have watched it. Okay? And if I care enough about it properly, I will pay to watch it, even though I know it's going to be bad, just so I can tell you exactly why it's bad. But also, every once in a while, you're surprised. You go, you watch it, you're just like, oh, you know what? That was a good movie. And then everybody has a good time.
Fair.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I will admit, like, even most of these movies that I watched, so I watched New Mutants, it's still horrible.
fair.
Um, X-Men Origins Wolverine, still horrible. Surprisingly, I watched Last Stand, and I was like, this is not as bad as I remember it to be. Is it good? It's a strong word, but is it bad? Definitely not.
Okay, so like with X-Men X2 and X-Men The Last Stand, we're looking at the time period that they were shot in and the scripts that they
Yeah.
had to go off of and the
Hmm.
cast that they had to work with. No, I think that they were fine. Especially
I
with
think.
what they when the budget started to go up and the people they had, comparing that one little trilogy
Mhm.
to then you jump to X-Men First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix. What are your thoughts on that? That juxtaposition between those two minor, I won't say franchises, but those two timelines.
I will say, first of all, the timelines don't match up, which was frustrating to me. Um, but as just movies, X-Men First Class and X2 are the best ones of the X-Men movies.
Okay.
I think so. I really like Days of Future Past. And also the first X-Men movie. Because that first X-Men movie, is it crazy? No, but is it like a really good introduction to all the characters? But my biggest problem with that movie is the last fight sequence in the oh my god. In the Statue of Liberty. It's so it's so bad.
Look, Hugh Jackman was brand new to the role and to basically acting at that point. Your bar is like all the way up here, and I'm gonna need you to bring it down to 2000. Okay.
No, no, no. My issues with that sequence is things like when Storm is just like, "Do you know what happens to frogs when they get hit by lightning? The same thing as
That's a
everything else."
dumbass tagline.
That is like one of the worst lines ever in a movie. Like ever. What is the point of
Okay,
that
like
line?
because he's a frog essentially. Tracy, you're
I
reading too
know
much
he's a
into
but
you.
the
You don't want the campiness of the one line. Like you're just
that
hating on this
wasn't
one.
even a campiness issue. That was just garbage.
Oh
It was
my
just
God.
bad.
You just,
Okay.
I'm sorry. And like writing for comics always had it up there. Like they had Kapow and I'm taking out the trash and Tracy,
Look,
on the same
it's about how you pull it off, and she did
line.
not pull off the line. It just comes across as flat, or at least don't say the same thing as everything else. Just say like, "Oh, they tend to explode" or something. Like I don't fucking know, but
God.
say something. Just else.
Are you
Anything else.
I feel like you're also comparing in the sense that you first of all, let's start with Halle Berry actually, because you didn't like her as casting as being casted
No,
as Storm.
no,
In that time period. Like first of all, she was one of the main it girls. Yes, we
no.
agree.
Even in, I remember in that time period, after watching What's Love Got to Do with It, I was like, Angela Bassett should be
Fair.
Storm. The whole, the little bit of internet and internet interaction and fan mails and stuff, everybody was like, Angela Bassett. She's blackety black, put a nice white wig on her, and she has like that tough but
Yes.
pretty lady presence. Like she has it,
Yes.
right? And I would believe she is from some deep part of Africa. I'm sorry, I would. It'll be fine. I think she
Never
would have
gave
been
us
fantastic.
a thing where because we didn't necessarily how many times did they even say that she was Aurora? They basically
They
always
called her
referred to her as
Storm.
Storm, just Storm. So it was like, let's give that ambiguity
Hmm.
and, call it a day. I think that like she definitely I loved the hair and makeup and
Hmm.
the costumes. I thought that that was all really well done. I think now looking back on it and how far we've come, I definitely think that Angela Bassett, especially since she would have been great. We
Hmm.
have a lot more to choose from. We've advocated for a lot, and I think that that would have been an amazing thing had it been done before. But unfortunately, I'm kind of glad that they went with Halle Berry, not for the acting and not because I don't want someone that would have been dark skinned and amazing, that would have definitely represented Storm a lot better, because I know for a fact they definitely would have butchered up how she would have looked on camera. I
You think
whole
so?
I wholeheartedly in my heart of hearts believe the wig would not have been laid the way it was. It would have been we would have been like, the makeup like we would have had some like chalky backflash type of look on it. Cause like unfortunately during that period, like even when I was watching it in X2, makeup looks flawless. In certain points, I'm like, she looks a little off and chalky, and they could get away with it because she was more on like the light skin side of things. I feel like they would have done a dark skinned woman dirty. And I know that this is like Hollywood, they have the budget. I'm so sorry. I would rather see, like, I would rather be like, you know what, at least they executed something here with, a black woman at top of her game at that time period, than sit there and do a dark skinned woman dirty and be like, no one cares for it. Because at that point, everyone was like, okay, Halle Berry, sex sells. Or like, this is great. They're gonna like everyone loves Storm. Everyone was trying to sit there and do blonde hair afterwards. God forbid. Um,
Hmm.
I feel as though there was a lot that got done, and that was one of the most iconic characters, not just from the comics, but then to there be on screen, everyone was talking about Halle Berry as Storm for a very long time,
Yeah.
and I feel like had it been anybody else, and it not done well, much less to have that sexual appeal. I don't think it would be as such a beloved character on screen today that it is.
I don't know. I will say, after watching these movies again, she's actually in it a lot less than I remember. A.
See what
She
happens when you hate.
No, I mean like this is from like watching this in the last couple of days, okay?
Okay.
She is in it less than I remember, but a lot of her lines are not good, right? They don't give her like meaty content to really work with.
They did that for you. They were like the bare minimum, and you're sitting here being like, and she sucks at it. No wonder you got Catwoman. And look what happened.
Look what happened there. Yes. She was the worst Bond girl, and she was also the worst Catwoman. What can we say?
So
I
sad.
don't I don't hate Halle Berry. I think as a person she is great. Um as an actor, eh,
I want to sit there and get on the racial side of things because yeah, I can go for days with that. Like the bare minimum, but it's
yeah.
fine.
Well, exactly. And that's the thing, right? It's just I don't know. I just feel like they could have done a more with their casting and more with the character in general.
Okay. So we are in agreement that Angela Bassett would have been phenomenal
Hmm.
at it, especially for that time period. I wonder, I don't think she probably doesn't have the range, but it would be interesting if it had been Nia Long,
Really?
because she was
No.
also at the top at that period, and she gives more Caribbean she doesn't get necessarily African, but they can definitely change up a little bit of that. And but I've never seen her with a range for acting. But I was just like, who else was at the time that they would have even given a call to be like, hey, we need somebody black.
Um, well, there's the girl
Yeah,
from Martin,
yeah, the one that played
Pam
Pam,
Pam from Martin, yeah. I think
Sheena Arnold.
I think visually she would have worked. I don't know if like I haven't really seen her in stuff where she'd have range, right?
Yeah, I
Like
think a
I've
lot of
seen
her stuff
her
is like comedy based. I don't think there's anything, but this might have been a role that she could have like definitely tried to. But again, she has more Caribbean features to me and not African. So it'd be interesting how like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's stuff that we could do in today's day and age. I don't think that that would have translated with how far we've come on like that whole on the level that we've come to today, being like, hey, you guys need to have more of more range. You guys need to have more inclusivity, inclusive. You know the word.
inclusivity.
It's like, why am I struggling? But to be like, okay, like if we're going for these features, this is how we can do this, and like to get the right tone and to get the right like hair and makeup all set, and for the person that we are doing this for, do I feel like it could have been done? I don't think they probably would have gotten it right until X-Men: The Last Stand, to be honest with you, and even then, that's a reach, because looking back
Well,
at just looking back at a lot of like it's just one of the things that like dark skinned women were always done. So that's one of the things that I love now. I look even just watching television is to sit there and be like, oh, thank God the black girl doesn't look a hot mess. Like,
yeah.
okay, great, because it's like it's just like it was too much work to sit there and be like, we're gonna give it the same amount of effort as the white counterparts, and it's not a white or black thing. It was just when it was just the white thing, it was just everybody. It's a lot simpler. This is what we work with. We know how to do. And when it came to like medium to light skinned girls, it was like, okay, we can squeeze a little bit more. We can try it. It's a little bit close to what we do. When it came to dark skin, it was like, this is going to be a hot mess, and
Yeah.
I think
Well,
that I don't think I would have stuck with it, or if that would have bothered. I don't think I ever would have rewatched it at that point if I don't see
I,
it going well for her if it had been anyone of that would have actually made the character done the character justice, in my
I
opinion.
don't know. I think if they were willing to try, I think they would have done a decent job at it.
Fair, but
Hmm.
that is not a time period where they were willing to try. It was
Well,
like they got
obviously.
bullied. That's why this is even a conversation in today's day and age. Let's remember
Hmm.
that as well. So it's just like, oh, okay, cool.
I mean, in X-Men Apocalypse, they did have a young Storm in it, but again,
No.
she wasn't she had the visuals for it. She had a good look. But then she'd start talking. I'm like, no, that's no. Mm-mm, that's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. They, I think that I was very glad when, um, with how much work and how much care was put into Black Panther, but that's morely because there was a lot of black voices and a lot of black input to be like, no, we this is how it's supposed to look, and it really everyone was agreeing that it did translate to the comics very well. So like there's that, but I don't think like I'm gonna take into account the time period that this was all filmed and done in, and that is gonna
But
be
but Apocalypse was 2016 compared to 2000. That's
it
a
was a
long
I
time
didn't care
period.
for the movie to begin with,
Yeah, it's not a
so
great movie. It's
it's
yeah.
like there's not much I can do here, but I'm talking in regards to X-Men X2 and X-Men The Last Stand, to be honest with you. But I'm like,
Hmm.
and because those are like 2000, 2003, and 2006, to be like, um, it was really well done. It was like, no, we would have been like, the homegirl's lace front is slipping down to her eyebrows and it's not matching, and the I think I can see her concealer and the contour is there, but it's not reflecting well. But yeah, so okay, so that's for Storm.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it was a smart choice for them to completely go with someone brand new, i.e. Hugh Jackman, for the role that was going to be like kind of going to launch a franchise essentially?
Yes, I do think it was smart of them. Well, it was smart of them. In hindsight, it was smart of them because Hugh Jackman did such a good job, right? Because sorry, if they hired the wrong no name and he sucked ass, that would have been a real problem, right? But Hugh Jackman went in there and did the job. Like he did it. Okay? It's been like most of his career for the last 25
Like
years.
like
That's high.
14 movies, so
Right?
obviously. And every time they like
Um,
would jump backwards, I think for Days of Future Past or
Yes.
First Class, and they were like,
Mhm.
let's not even bother recast a younger Logan. We're just gonna CGI it and use Hugh Jackman. And I'm like, oh my God, okay.
What do you mean CGI? He can just be Hugh Jackman. The man's at that point in time
Supposed to be
in
young.
in the night no in the 1970s he's supposed to be like 100 and something years old or whatever. Like that's where he's supposed to be. It's
Oh my God.
fine.
That's the only reason that you're like, the timelines don't make sense. But in this side, they was perfectly fine to make sense. You cannot
Look,
find rationale where you wanted to. Okay.
I can
Tracy?
find rationale because they have set up a world in a very specific way. There are
Go.
rules to this world, and the rule in this world is Logan is an old man in a relatively young person's body because his body regenerates, right? And he does not age the same way. By the time he is met in like the 70s, he's about 100 years old in Days of Future Past and like First Class and stuff. When they meet him there, he's 100 years old already, right? But he's in the body of like a 30-year-old. That's how it's supposed to be. That's how the character is. That's the whole point, right? So that is acceptable. But when you have three movies that set a specific timeline before it, and then you have like Days of Future Patch, which I watched today, where they go
What?
back in time and they make reference to the time period before it, but then you're like, that doesn't make any sense because of these five things. Your time traveling arc is a moot at the end of that Days of Future Past thing in the first place. But also, how they got there doesn't actually make any sense based on the storyline up to the point they go back in time.
Very entertaining.
Why? Because I'm making perfect sense?
I'll let you have it. Yes. I will. We'll agree to disagree. It's fine.
Look, I understand right now there's no such thing as mutants to this level. Like, nobody's phasing through walls and stuff. I get it. So in reality, do I think that? No. But if you create a fictional world and you set rules, follow the rules. That's
I
all I
don't
gotta
even
say.
think it's the rules that are the problem. I think that when someone creates a character and they do it so well that people can't see them being replaced, or they don't like, the bar is set so high that if anyone, they just, everyone else knows that they're like, we can't touch this. This is kind of like a canon moment. Like, we gotta figure out something else or bring someone, a new character that's going to be beloved. They kind of also set themselves up for failure in a sense, because it's like saying that, like, Blade, Wesley Snipes, we all know, it's just, he's just Blade.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Uh, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine, it is what it is.
The thing is, I don't have a problem with them replacing Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. That's not what I'm arguing.
Um,
No, like, no, because if they're just
I
like,
get what you're
hey,
saying in terms of the timeline. Don't get me wrong. I
yeah,
do understand.
yeah,
But I was just like, sit there and make it cohesive and be like, okay, well, let's, like, this would be a great time for us to play around and find like a younger slash older. And I get that they're like, well, technically we can use him as is. That's
yeah,
fine. They also still had to put that man through like a whole workout regimen for months on time, because they're like, I get that physically and like on the age level, you are going to be this old, but we need you to still be in top shape physique. And I know that you're like over 40. So like, but can you kind of like bulk up again and, you know, get back to the top of the line that we need you to be? They couldn't even find someone that was just like, okay, I'm gonna play a younger him while still be like, I get what you're talking about for the timeline, but it was just like, no, we need you to get back in shape and come do the role, and we can't pick
but
anyone
he
else to come play
he
you.
has to. I'm sorry. In this case, he has to.
Oh
Okay.
my
This is
God.
just no, but if they're like, no, it's gonna be a completely new world, we're here, we're getting all new X-Men,
So I said
boom, and
something like,
then
this has been a time for you to use someone new, to be like, okay, we're gonna jump, and this is gonna be the new the new X Wolverine. And they're like, we can't even do that. We have to bring back the original. I'm so sorry.
well,
Everyone
they
else,
should have. But
Everyone
they
else got
could
shot.
have done that in Deadpool and Wolverine, where they went to the different timelines of the different
And look,
Wolverines,
and
and
look what
they,
happened just with that. Because how many of them were still Hugh Jackman, and versus how many of them were cameos from other crazy big.
sorry, Henry Cavill as Wolverine. I was like, woo, I can watch
Henry
this. This will work for me.
Cavill, he's another one. They're like, that is my Superman. And it's like, okay, the bar is
Ugh,
set very, very high. Oh my,
no,
we're not even gonna bother with you right now.
no,
So,
I can't.
but I'm just like,
Look,
they didn't even bother try because they just know that it wouldn't be well received by the public.
I feel like in the jumping through the different timelines, if they showed a
So now you're
couple
just being a
more
nerd.
different Wolverines, it would have been cool. And then the next movie they do, they could have been like, oh no, now we're in this timeline. So this guy's Wolverine.
They didn't. They couldn't. They
Ah,
literally could not, and they
they
just
could have.
knew they could have, and they did not. They're like, we'll put you in different wigs, hairs, mustache, and everything, and they're like, so we just need it to be you. I'm so sorry. Like, please don't die on us, and if we can make you look youthful, and we'll even use CGI to bulk you up if you need to, but we just need you to come and act.
Well, they made this possible because of the TVA and they bring in the multiverse. I mean, Kang Dynasty's been destroyed, so we're gonna get less of that probably, but I'm looking forward to it. They're gonna bring in a different Wolverine somehow, and I'm
I
looking
don't think
forward to
so.
it.
I really don't think so.
They have to. At some point in
They
time, they
have
have
to.
to.
They I don't think they are going to. I think it's going to be something completely different. Or I feel like they just won't use his character like that. Because if Ryan was able to bring Hugh back as the Wolverine,
Hmm.
that would have been a time for them to also be like, okay, actually, let's do a couple of like extra work. And I have a feeling like this is his time to cross over into the bigger MCU and make it a thing. I don't think they're going to use anyone else. I think that this is going to be his last big known project.
Hurrah.
And yeah, I don't even want to say hurrah because they'll probably do like a couple movies, but yeah, just like they're wheeling poor Patrick Stewart to everything as they're like, hey, we love you so much. Here's a script. I know how much you love to work. They're like, the man, him and Sir Ian McKellen. I'm
Yeah.
like, these are grown I don't even want to say old men, grown ass men that I'm like, they look like they're at death's door. Like they could
They're
go
old. They're over
tomorrow.
80 years old, both of
They
them, I
are.
think.
Because
Yeah.
when I saw Patrick Stewart on the Graham Norton show and I was like, "Oh my God." But I'm like, but didn't he just film one of the movies? And I was like, they really slap on a lot of makeup. Like this man is probably have like how much coffee and a little bit of like I wouldn't be surprised if they pop an upper in there and the man's just like, hello. But I'm like, they are working that man to the bone. I don't know what you guys are gonna do if and when he passed. Because I was like, I was surprised when they decided to completely recast both Ian and Patrick's characters to be like, okay, we're gonna give them a younger presence, and it worked because they found, two amazing actors that are still at the top and phenomenal. But I was just
Mhm.
like, okay, this is going to be interesting. But to sit there and drag these two men, these poor men, through the whole of the
You're like,
franchise,
let them retire.
I'm
It's
like, oh my God.
fine.
I'm like,
I
they're not
mean,
on
they killed Xavier, and I mean, they killed everybody in Logan. What am I talking about?
everybody.
And they brought them back, so it's fine.
That is my problem. I was like, these men have been through enough, and you guys are keep going like, okay, just one more time. I'm just and another one. Like, and if we let's go back and bring you back again. Are you good for another movie? You're good for another. Okay, awesome. And
It's
it's
just
like,
one more. You just have to sit in the chair and go, ah, my head. Like that's it.
it's the chair that really gets me, and I'm like, oh my God. Every time I see him, I'm like, how soon until that is the real thing? Like, you guys are gonna wheel this man's skeleton in on screen, and I'm just gonna be like, oh my God, let the man rest in peace at this point. Sorry. I know you're not dead, Patrick.
Yeah. I mean, Patrick Stewart was the only like seems to be like the fan service hire because everybody was like, who should play Xavier? Patrick Stewart. And the studio was like, yeah. Patrick Stewart was like, yeah. All the fans were like, yeah. And there he was. That's the only one anybody picked and had like a unanimous choice for was
Okay.
him. And I'm like, yeah, he works. Perfect job. Love it.
Trying to think, like, I don't know if it's the English in them or because I also know, yeah, but if anybody else, if the characters always would have had to have, because I find that English actors because they also have to do a lot of stage, have to have a lot of stage presence and know how
Right.
to deliver certain lines, and it's just done so well. I feel as though there's like a standard that they've set, and I don't think that anyone that probably wasn't an English actor could have really given this to me, because even then they decided to be like, let's still go with foreign. These two men, and I know that was the character, but anyone could put on an accent, and they were like, no, no, we want authentic. Thank you so
No,
much.
but I actually think like British people are really good at doing an American accent, but American people are not good at doing British accents.
No, they're not.
I think that's probably 95% of the reason why they still went with them. Be like, no, just have your English accent. It's fine. We'll just stick with it. You know, it's good.
Like, just make it work. It's fine.
They're like, look, Brad Pitt showed up and tried doing English accent again, and it did not work. Okay,
Um,
we're gonna let this one go. Thank you. Have you ever seen the movie Devil's Own, where he does like an Irish accent the whole movie? It is so bad. Like, I think Brad Pitt's a really good actor, but even I was just like, stop. You have to stop this.
there's a lot of them that I'm like, I say this with all the love in the world. Stick with what you know. It's
Right?
okay. There's no reason for you to go outside of the box. Like I don't go to you for like groundbreaking, like thespian-esque like acting. I'm just like, do you throw a punch? Do you sit there and maybe save a child? But like I'm not like the way he delivered that second line, and it just that tear fell and he looked to his left. They don't have that. I'm so sorry.
They
It's
don't have
just
it. No,
it's fine.
no.
But speaking of, because then we have Alan Cummings as Nightcrawler. What was
He
your
was great.
thoughts? Just-
I actually really liked him as Nightcrawler. He was
the
a little,
makeup.
the makeup was fantastic. I think he brought a really good, because he's like that wire, he's got like a wiriness, you know, and that like pointy face that makes like with the makeup makes him look even more
Yeah,
alien, for the lack of a better word.
otherworldly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think he did like a really good job. Like I thought he was really good.
It's funny because it, with how I with such a great job that he did, Nightcrawler, I can only see him as Floop from Spy Kids.
Can I admit something?
Oh no, Tracy, don't.
I have never watched Spy Kids.
Safe. God. Oh no. Why do you
What?
give me such stress?
I think the first Spy
I think
Kids
I might have
movie
been too
came
old
out
by
when I
that time.
was old, yeah.
Oh, Tracy, Tracy,
Yeah, that
Tracy.
actually came out in 2001. I was old. Like, no.
So much for
Did
being a
not watch
movie
that.
buff. Didn't you go and see Paddington too?
Yeah, that movie was great.
Oh my
I
God.
don't Well,
No
actually
Spy
no.
Kids, but
Okay,
Paddington 2 is
Paddington
fine.
2 I did not see in the theater, okay? Because I was
Girl.
just like it can't be that good. Waited for it to come on TV. I was like, "Oh my God, I should have seen this in the theater. It was that good." I saw Paddington 3 in the theater. It's delightful. Thank you very much. And
Look
it's
at you
not just a
picking and
kids
choosing,
movie. It's not just a kids movie. It's delightful.
if you say so.
I don't yes, I do say so.
But either
Thank you for
way,
acknowledging me.
I loved the makeup and the detail. I loved his mannerisms,
Hmm.
the accent that he used. And
It
yeah, I
was
was just like
consistent is what I liked about that accent.
that too. And I was just like, okay. And yeah, with the wiriness, because even so, like his skittishness really went with the character, and he just did it so well on screen that I was like, okay, I like this.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay, cool. Um, was he? Because I'm drawing a blank on if he is in The Last Stand, though. I don't think he was.
No, I don't think he is. I think he was
Like I
only in
came,
the X2.
he came, and then he was gone. They were like, "Hey, I'm so sorry. It was so expensive to do your hair and makeup for the budget. We don't have it for The Last Man, The X Stand,
Yeah.
because we're gonna move a bridge."
Hmm. Well, yeah, and he's not going to help with that. Uh, but he also baby version of him shows up in Apocalypse as well.
Yes, I do remember.
Yes. Yeah.
But okay, are we talking Rogue or are we going to talk about Mystique?
Let's talk Rogue first.
Sorry, because we're going to talk Rogue first. the funniest thing about this movie is how horny Bobby and Rogue are for each other.
Oh yeah.
They are like like the hardships of being like, I can't keep my hands off of you, but I must. It's literally I must. And the whole time I'm like, um, look here, Rogue girl. You killed your first boyfriend in the first movie. And
He was
now
just in a coma for 3 weeks. He lived.
I was like, okay, I'm like, I get that we're still in emphasis on like they don't know what to do with her powers or like she's still learning and she's still like figuring out how to work with herself. But I was like, the emphasis on I'm trying to be with my girlfriend, everything was Bobby's angst when he's talking to Logan in the kitchen. I was just crying because even he stops and he's like, excuse me. It's
He's like,
like
don't get me wrong, it's not like that, though I want it to be. You're like, what? Sorry, what?
he's like, I'm so sorry. She's like a little sister to me, and what the hell are you guys talking about?
Yes.
But I was like, these two are just hard up for each other, and everything was love. And I just want to. I'm like, these two really want to bang, and I'm so uncomfortable right now. So
And that's the only
uncomfortable.
reason why she wants to get the cure. She's like, I want to do my
Like, I
boyfriend.
just want
God,
to be with my and that is like such teenage angst.
it is.
So well done. Like, I just want to be with my boyfriend. It's like there are bigger. Look at the big picture, and they just couldn't. So I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's
Like,
funny. Like he could, and he was like, "No, like you're better than this. We can work through this." And she's just like, "No," and I'm like, "You really are a teenage girl, and it shows." And I'm okay with this because it was so funny. It's like,
I,
girl,
my only problem with, I think Anna Paquin did a good job in the role she was put in, but because my biggest connection to Rogue at that point was from the 90s cartoon, where Rogue is an adult in the show, right? And she has her gray streak already. She's got super strength that she I don't remember who she took it from. It was super strength and she can fly, right? And in this I'm just like, "Oh, you just touch up on people? That's it? That's all you do?" Oh, okay. And
we're
I'm
just
like,
like, we're
she
gonna go
has,
around this.
but Rogue has that power in the cartoon,
They
but
never
that's not
actually
her
get to
main
there with her.
power.
They
No, they
never get
don't.
to anything past her. So it was just like, and I forgot that she had all of those things. And I was like, okay, so because we're stuck with teenage, sexually charged Rogue, we never understand that she actually is the big one of the biggest characters that could be
Yeah.
on the team. And I'm like, we never even got to explore any of that. They don't even bring her back. They don't like do anything else other than that she just keeps running around and touching people. So yeah, I was like, oh, this is interesting.
Yes.
That's all we're
That's
gonna
it.
do. Love that
Yeah.
for you, girl. Love that for you. But
Yeah.
speaking of strength, because in this one we do have Colossus, and he's used for like one or two scenes, and that's basically it.
Yes. I like Colossus. I mean, he's fine. But like I said, he has a bigger role in the two Deadpool movies than he does in any of these
This is
movies.
why I found it funny because I like rewatching X2. I was like, wow. And I was like, he never comes back. Where'd you go? It's like
Yeah.
I could help you, and I was like, no, no, but he can. It's like, do we not have enough in the budget for like, because like even like hit the I wonder if it was more CGI than actual or special effects of for them to when he turns into Colossus. I was like, that's actually dope. Like
Yeah.
especially
It
for the
actually
time
looked
period.
really good still.
It,
It's aged
I was like,
well.
oh, I was like, okay, this actually looks mad cool.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of prefer it more than the Deadpool one, but that's just me. That's just me.
Okay.
That's just me.
Yeah, but that's also because in the Deadpool movies, he is Colossus. Like he is
Yeah.
covered in silver and he's got his little suit on the whole time. Whereas
Sorry.
this, you get to see him as a person and as Colossus. And I think it's the transition that looks really cool. But the thing
Yes.
is, I also think it may have been a budgetary thing because he turns and then he turns back 3 seconds later. Or like he turns and then he saves somebody and then you see him run down the hall as a human again. And you're like, why wouldn't you just stay as Colossus? Aren't you helping? Like they're shooting bullets
Well, it's
and
hard to
darts at
rise a Tin
people.
Man. I don't know if you know that or not, but we'll find out in Wicked. It's fine.
We're gonna okay.
We'll find out in Wicked. It's hard to run as a Tin Man. It's okay.
As long as they don't put asbestos paint on the new Tin Man and have asbestos snow and has asbestos walls and asbestos.
All right, one more time of feeling.
Well, the original Wizard of Oz movie, there like three of the actors got sick. Like I think it was like the Tin Man and the Cowardly Lion and the Wicked Witch because they were using like these paints that had all these chemicals in it. And there's scenes in it where it's like it's either like snowing or they're in like hay or something, and it's just asbestos that they're playing it. It's just asbestos.
The show must go on. I don't care if you're about to die. Give me feeling, lights, camera, action. Let's go. But yes, I was like, I had a feeling that it would probably be a budgetary thing because they were like, Nightcrawler, Colossus, which one are we picking? Nightcrawler it is. But I
Yeah.
was just like, he was in it. I guess he's no longer in it. Goodbye.
Right? I
But yeah,
mean, he does show up in Days of Future Past. Yes, he shows up in the future scenes of Days of Future Past. But like he gets ripped apart by Sentinels. Like literally, there's a scene that is incredibly intense where two Sentinels grab him and they physically rip him apart. And I'm like, what the fuck what are you people doing? What are you showing to children? Oh my God.
well, it's the same thing. Like, I just had a thought for it, and um, it'll probably come to me at some point. But there was a lot where I was like, is was this Cyclops?
Mm.
And they were just like, I'm like, he's a big character. And then I'm like, well, obviously, instead of a recast, do we think
They
let's
just
just
murdered him instead?
I was like, that's not necessarily the thing, but
Well,
okay.
apparently the reason why he actually wanted his to be out of that movie, and they were like, "No, we have to figure out a way to get you out because he was going to be in Superman Returns,
How
and
great
if
that
that
was.
became a franchise, he was going to have a recurring character." And he's like, "No, I want to do Superman," and that's actually what happened. And they're both, I think Bryan Singer directed both X2 and yeah, and Superman Returns. And so it's this like, I have to pick one of your jobs to go to. So which one is it?
You mean to tell me you can't figure out a way to be like, okay, you're not going to have the strongest presence in this one, or we can film your scenes last,
Mm,
but hey, we want you in Superman. And I get that I don't, I don't know in my brain how, like, to sit there and look back now and be like, okay, this franchise went on for how long?
hmm.
And this one, like, you're already in a established franchise on the second movie with a decent sized role because he had a very large role in the first one. To
Yeah,
not
but almost nothing to do in the second one. And then he gets killed immediately at the beginning of the third one. Like,
I probably would have been like, okay, so I was big in the first one. I had nothing really in the second one, and
right.
what are you giving me for the third before I decide which one I'm going to take? Because I'm about to be someone's step baby daddy.
Yes, exactly. Right. Um, but no, I think the reason why he was like, no, I want out, I'm gonna pick the other thing is because he comes in the second movie, he's in that movie maybe he's there less than 10 minutes because
Yeah.
it's right at the beginning. You see him take Charles to go see Magneto. He gets captured. You don't see him until the very last sequence of the movie where you find out he's under Stryker's control and Jean has to stop him, and then they have like one fight and then they're like, I love you, I love you, and then they separate again and you don't see him until he's on the plane screaming for Jean, and then it's done. That's it.
Emotional scenes, very well done
He does do that
compared to
emotional
being
scene very well.
the baby daddy. So
Yes.
you win some, you lose some. I would have taken that because I don't even know what to say. What they probably would have done. It's funny because they like made way for Logan's character to get with Jean for the third one, and I'm like, oh no, how does she have a such a deep emotional connection to you? You just got here. Meanwhile, she like rips Scott to shreds. It's like
She's
okay.
like, I'm okay. Bye. Okay.
She's like, I need someone that can handle me. Ma'am, this is a children's movie. Excuse me. I hope you don't. Please get it together. Thank you
It's
so much.
clearly at least a PG-13. Okay, they're
Like
allowed.
back in the day, we were like anytime we have to like relook at any type of parental guide ratings, and I'm like, this was PG. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, do we have an updated parental guide rating on this? And it's like, so this is 18A. This is rated R. But
I'm like,
they're
no,
like,
I watched this as
but
a
the
child. What are
children.
you talking about?
It's like,
Like,
what? I used to watch this all the time. Like,
and
my
then
movie that I should be embarrassed about was probably Showtime with Eddie Murphy and Robert De Niro. The amount of
seriously?
fucks that were in that movie,
What
yeah,
is wrong with you?
so many times.
My
So
movie
bad.
growing up was Flashdance, which was not about coarse language. It's about like she was a stripper and there was quite a few sex scenes. Like, and me and my mom used to watch it like dance to the songs. I was like, what? What is
My
happening?
mom's like, okay, I'm gonna cover your ears every time they swear. I was like, I'm gonna miss out on the whole movie. And at one point, she was just like, just don't repeat it at this point, guys. Come on.
Yes.
And I was like, the movie is so funny. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, it wasn't
That one
yeah.
and my other one was Die Hard. But it was always on TV edited without the cussing out. So the cussing cut out. So it was fine.
No, I think that like, but that's with that those time periods of movies. The acting and everything was just great that I would understand a lot of distribution houses being like, don't edit anything. It's to keep the integrity of the movie. And I'm like, I understand that the music was something like the scorecard being like brought the movie together, and the acting and the cinematography and like even just the light CGI where you're like, this is lame in today's world, but you're like, it's just such a good movie. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, I'm seeing my screen is like 85% dark blackness and I don't know what's going on to like, don't cut anything. The integrity of the movie. What movie? I can't see
You can't
anything.
you can't see anything. I was talking about this with my friends. They're like, "No, we want the realism of a dark room." I'm like, "What is the fucking point? It is a movie. The whole point is for me to see things."
They don't want you to see how bad it is. And I was like, oh, okay. This is lame.
Exactly.
But
Exactly. Drives me crazy. Um, but like, so overall, you like these first three X-Men movies, right?
I
Like,
think that they were very well done. And especially because there wasn't really anything like that. I think we got a lot of variations of like Batman's and all that kind of stuff for like the longest time. So for them
mhm.
to be like, "Hey, we're going to do something brand new and give you X-Men." And it was like, "Okay, this is cool." And I'm getting to see like the younger actors that are portraying kids and I'm like, "Okay, everyone looks cool in this." The makeup, I was like, "Yeah, no, I did not hate the first three." I was like, you could probably sit there and nitpick because that's just you. But I was like, no, I actually like them.
I fully just said I like those three movies. I was surprised. The Last Stand is are there problems with The Last Stand? Yes, yes there are.
So I
But
didn't think you did because you're always just like, okay. I mean, if we have to in terms of like continuity and airing it in order, then fine. But like, I'm not a fan, and like we could just
well,
bury it in the
for
overnight. And I'm like,
example,
oh God, Tracy.
they completely wasted Ben Foster's character Archangel, you know, the dude with the wings, who's the son of the guy who came up with like the thing. Completely wasted that character.
Yeah.
Completely wasted. Mind you, the little kid at the beginning trying to scrape off the wings broke my heart. Broke
It's like that's a
my
lot of blood.
heart.
It's like, oh
Yes.
my God, that was kind of like that really just made me go, oh, that's a lot right there.
That's yeah, yeah.
But I think it would I don't know. I think that I would have rather they used someone else, or maybe I'm just not liking the no, I'd rather somebody else because his posture when he like stands up, the curve for his spine to torso to pelvic region really made me uncomfortable to
Wait, are you
watch.
talking about when he was gonna get the injection and for some reason they took his
Yeah.
whole
And then
shirt
all of a
off?
sudden his like wings flew and I was like, this isn't giving me the yeah, that's great. I was like, why is he standing like that? He wasn't focused on the right thing. So
No, no, you were not.
it's like I was like, yeah, he's not taking the injection. Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. But
Hmm.
yeah, no, I wasn't focused. It's fine.
It really like it just didn't land the way they were expecting it to land, and it didn't work. Like that movie just did not work, and anyhow they expected it to. And especially watching it right after X2, I didn't have to wait 3 years to watch it. And I'm just like, but you just did that movie, and that movie was really good. Like yeah, like what happened here? Who did you lose that would have told you, would have smacked you and erased a whole section of your script and be like, this is wrong, do it again? Like, who was it?
They're like, we're coming up on the time that we have Sir Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart before they are on, unfortunately, their deathbed. So like we got to move quickly and work with what we got. So we're going
There
with
you
what
go.
we have. So yeah, onward and upward. That's what's
Onward
happening.
and upward, yes. So then after that we got X-Men Origins Wolverine, which I think we bitched about already. Um, but I will say Liev Schreiber as Sabretooth was cool. I
I think
actually
so.
really liked him as that
Especially when he
character.
like they he did so well that when they brought him back for Deadpool, I was like,
I mean, like the guy that they had in, was it? Yeah, no, he shows up in the first X-Men movie. Um, like sure he was more comic book accurate as the character, but he was not menacing, and Liev Schreiber was menacing like he's supposed to be. Like he looks like a person who would rip off your face for fun. Like I believed it.
I mean, no notes. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right?
no, I
Uh
agree.
who else? I like the old couple on the farm who just get unceremoniously murdered.
Oh, I was like,
Uh
this is giving me what's his name? Martha and Jonathan Kent right there. But we'll help anyone.
I know, they really were.
They're like, there's a naked man in our barn. I'm like, what's happening right now? Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, they were just like, oh, like, this is our son's clothes and we'll like keep you warm and give you a place to stay. And he's like breaking the toilet and he's like, I'll fix it. But I'm just like, you never fixed the toilet and now you're on your way out. You took the man's motorcycle and shit's happening. But yeah, no, I
Well,
was
it
like,
was the next day and they were already dead. He didn't have to go back and fix anything.
oh, there's nothing more aggravating with superhero movies than the cleanup. And I'm just like, who's going to look at this? Who's going to
Hmm.
fix this? I get that the
Yeah.
people are dead, but now their relatives are going to come and be like, oh my goodness, what the fuck happened to my bathroom?
Yeah.
Like, how do I put this for resale? Like, what happened? Like, they were attacked by something. Like, no, 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 no. A wolf or something came. And
Well,
yeah,
wait, didn't the whole barn get blown up? Because isn't there like a scene where he's, no,
the
it's just a,
insurance money is definitely not covering that. Oh
oh,
my God,
or was it
stress.
just the helicopter that blew
It was
up?
no, it was the helicopter that
It
blew
was just
up.
the helicopter. Okay, just checking.
Because I know that he
Because
gets
I
shot and then he's like on the
turns out,
motorcycle.
yeah.
And I was like,
I will say their son is a snazzy dresser because damn, like look at the outfit he comes out with. Apparently, you go anywhere and everybody's the same size. You're like, all right.
I was like, he's like, my son's about your size. And I was like, oh, what a surprise. I was like, he couldn't be petite.
Yeah.
That just wouldn't
He's
work.
he's like, my son was a little shorter than you, but can you try these on? You're like, why
Like,
does it look like I have
imagine.
capris on? Like, what is
Literally, I was like,
happening?
imagine like to have like some really form-fitting jeans and like they come up to like your mid shin. You have to like roll them up a little with some high waters. Yeah, just make it work. Like it's fine.
It's
It's
like
fine.
he's got like some wellies and a couple of like suspenders, just
Sperry's
heading
on, and
out.
he's like, "Yeah, this works.
Got a bucket hat.
It's fine. Paper boy, here I
Yeah.
come." Like,
But no, he's got perfectly fitted jeans and a
oh
shirt
god.
just that buttons just so, and then like a really cool leather jacket. I'm like, dude,
Like I could
really? All right.
understand if your son was Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
If your son was Sean Ashmore, I don't think that's gonna work. But it's like, oh, let me find like the slimmest man, the tiniest man. They're like, yeah, our son's clothes should fit you. And it's like, was there a point where he was obese? I will take those clothes. Thank you so
Are
much.
they are these are your son's fat clothes? Yeah. Okay, got it. All right,
Slimmed
done.
out a little. It's like, thank you so much. Well, fine. But yeah, no, the old couple. I don't. Everyone's a again different time period because only
Mm.
so people can be so giving and open door policy versus now I'd be like, who lets a naked man that's running through a barn into their house out of the goodness of our heart?
I don't. I know I wouldn't. I mean,
I'd be like, here's some
did you
clothes.
see him though?
Here's some.
Like, Did you see him
The
though?
crazy ones are always hot, and that is where people die. Have you not listened to a murder podcast, Tracy? They're
No,
like,
I'm
oh my God,
trying
he
not
was
to be scared
pretty.
everywhere I
Okay,
go.
like Paul Bernardo. Like everyone's just like, but he was so good looking, and I'm like, and this is how they get you.
Well, yeah,
You
they're
would
always
have been
like, "Oh, he was charming and he was this and he was that." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why you're murdered." But also, like, if all murderers were ugly, you'd be like, "Oh, it's that guy." You just point him out, like that guy did it.
well, it's like when we were kids or younger, and they would be like, "Don't talk to anybody in a trench coat because they're gonna kidnap you or they're a pedophile." And now it's like, so everyone, all the kids would just be screaming if they saw someone in like a beige long trench coat. And
Yeah.
now it's just like, no, no, this is just fashion. And it's like, oh, so you're not gonna steal the children? Well,
Mm,
that's the same.
I didn't say that, but also fashion.
They were like, we knew who you were. You were easily spotted. Like that person's going to like abduct children, or he's someone to watch, or he's gonna flash people. And now it's just no, no. I'm just gonna wear this with a nice like handbag and some nice like boot. Yeah, no, we knew who to
Yeah.
look out for. And now,
Yeah.
if
Now
I
you're like,
see a
this is
naked man running
Burberry. What are you
into my
talking
no,
about?
if I see someone running into my barn while they're naked, I don't care how much muscle they have. Um, I'm probably gonna poke them with a fork, with one of the forks for the bale hay, and be like, "Where are your clothes?" And I want to answer all questions while they freeze. I don't care if it's to death. We are Canada. I feel like answer.
You're like,
Poke-
I know it's January. I know it's cold,
yeah.
but where are your clothes? Where did
So,
they go?
what is going on? So many questions. Yeah, no, I'm not opening up my door.
What are you talking about? I'm going on like Instagram Live, opening my phone. I'd be like, look at this fool who thought he could just come into my barn and do whatever he wants. That's disgusting. Ah.
Meanwhile, all the comments, ooh, hot, so hot.
They're like,
I'll
put
take
down the
two.
phone, girl. You got work to do. He's so sexy. Blah, blah.
BRB in 15.
Be like, where do you live? Let me save you from him.
Literally, Book Talk would be having like a field day. They're like, yes, dream man. She's like, no, thank you. A mess. That's what that means. A whole
Yes,
mess.
a full mess, a full mess. I did enjoy. I actually think Taylor Kitsch played a really good Gambit. I liked him as Gambit. She's thinking, everybody, thinking real hard.
Like, I'm like, okay, hold on. Let me,
I think Taylor Kitsch, his whole career, he got a bad rap. He's actually a pretty decent actor who just picked some very bad
okay.
roles for him.
I was just like, a bit, no, who did I think you were saying just now? Hold on. Because I knew who you were referring to, and the name wasn't coming to me because I thought you were saying, Don, what's his name?
What character did he play?
Uh, no, 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 not the, shoot, what's his name? I'm forgetting his name. It's gonna bother me. I'm sorry.
I don't know who you're talking
No,
about.
you wouldn't. Actually, Kit Connor, because I was reading stuff about Heartstopper. So I was just like, Kit Connor wasn't Gab. He wasn't Gambit. Even though you're like, no, Taylor Kitsch. Yes, I love Taylor Kitsch. Sorry,
Who's
continue.
Kid? Sorry, Kid Connor?
Kit Connor. He's actually in X2 when I did it. Who was he? I think he's one of the children. Oh, I thought he was. I guess not. I'm probably losing my mind. It's fine. It's just because of the kit.
Oh, him.
Yeah,
I don't know who that is.
it's
I
fine.
know you're mixed up. The other guy in Heartstopper is in Agatha All Along.
That's not my mix up. I knew who
Oh,
you were
okay.
referring to, but I was like, the names completely gave me like a whole dyslexia moment there.
Mm.
It's
Yeah,
fine.
Taylor Kitsch is who
Oh,
I'm
my
talking
love. Yes.
about.
I wish I got to see more of him as Gambit. Yes, I do agree.
Yes, I yeah, because
Because
he
even
like,
when he comes back for him, and I was just like, "Ooh, this could be like something. This could
mhm.
be a friendship here." And then I was like, "Oh, okay. So, are you interested to see Channing Tatum's? If they, I think they're bringing him into the MCU as to continue on as Gambit. If I heard
Well
correctly,
they, I don't.
I think they had a
They're
movie and
doing
they
the
scrapped it.
they're doing the multiverse thing again,
Yeah.
so maybe his character might jump in and out, especially since it was introduced in Wolverine,
Yeah.
Deadpool and Wolverine. The same thing with like Blade, and the same thing with like Elektra. There's a chance that they might show up in places, but I hope not, kind of.
Well, Taylor Kitsch, I do love me a Canadian actor. I
Hmm.
loved when he was in Friday Night Lights, so don't worry, I do love him. Yeah, I wish there was more of him, and I wish they had like it kind of sucked like they went their separate ways when he came back for Logan when he had like the he's like okay it's
Yeah,
time to go kind of thing, and it was just like I'm sorry, who the hell are you? It's
yeah.
just like, well, I gotta go then if you're gonna stay here and look lost.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, they should have had like a buddy cop thing after. He should have gone with them together. And well, because we also don't know how Logan got to Alaska at the beginning of X-Men. So it's like maybe in between they went on adventures and whatever, and then they separated for some other reason. Like, I would have watched that movie.
that could have been the Wolverine right there,
Yeah.
but it's fine.
Yes.
Um, yeah, no, I think that they had like a really good chemistry together while they were on screen.
Mhm.
Um, and I do like his little Southern-esque drawl that he attempted there. Wasn't too
Yeah.
bad. Um, yeah, every time I see like the cane, I'm just like, Lord, give me strength. Give me so much strength for this. Yeah, that's all I have to say on that. I would I they I, that would be something that if they had tapped to be like, we're gonna bring you back for like a little one too, that would have been cool.
Yeah, I think I would have watched that one. That one would have been good. Who else was there? Oh, there's that guy that has the same name as a basketball player.
No,
Um,
Crazy's
who
talking
plays like
sports.
Kevin Durant. Uh, the guy who played like the Blob guy.
Yes,
Yeah, him. First of all, last summer, walking from work, going home to the subway,
museum.
past that man on the street. I was like, "Who's that guy? That man is gigantic.
Yes, he
He
is
is
very tall.
gigantic. Like he is super tall and super wide, but not fat. Like it's pure. You could see that it's pure muscle. And I was like, holy shit, that man is huge. But
Yes,
yes, it was him. I thought he was kind of funny as the blob dude. Um,
he's always pretty good in anything that he's in.
he usually plays the bad guy.
Yes. I didn't like the blonde hair on him, but that's just that was a choice there. Um, I was like, okay, but yeah, no, because I'm trying to figure out like I don't think his character, aside from when he became the Blob, really stood out
Hmm.
on when they were doing like the team elevator thing and everyone was doing like their thing, and I was like, what
Oh, I mean,
exactly
he
is it that
was,
you do?
yeah, he was sitting beside Wolverine on the plane and he was just sitting there eating. He was just eating the whole time.
But it's like before I get that. And it was just like me trying to like everyone got to like do their little 30 like 15 to 20 seconds of like here's my moment of what's his name? I think it's Daniel had well Agent Zero when he got to do like his gun thing and then
Oh,
like
yes.
Chris Bradley when it was like the whole lights and the elevator moving and I was like okay um Sean Will I Am the whole pop
Yeah.
pop 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 and I was like
Yeah.
okay cool but
Then
yeah but
Wade
it was
goes in with his swords and like cuts things up and blah blah blah.
I
Yeah.
was just like lame I was like boo tomato tomato but I was like I don't remember like Kevin Durant actually doing anything from before he got that ring scene with him and Will I Am.
I think he
But
like punched some people on the ground.
you know, I was like, oh, okay. Not memorable from before they did that whole
Oh,
um
you know what he did? There was a tank and he put his fist in it as they fired and then the tank blew up.
yes.
That's what
Okay.
he
Because I
did.
was just like, he didn't do anything memorable, but that okay, that makes sense. Okay. Yes.
He
Yes,
did
yes.
a
Continue.
thing. Yes. I do enjoy that guy when he shows up in things. I
I
find him
do.
entertaining.
Just like
Uh
you're always so evil. Even though him on I think it's season 3 of Lock and Key was a letdown. I didn't care for the season. Side
I
note. It's
did not get through the whole first season of Lock and Key, so I don't know.
You didn't lock and key, and I was just like,
Well, I don't know. I kept yelling at like I know they're kids with
yes,
the
the
keys
child.
and stuff,
Yeah.
but I kept yelling at the screen like you guys are doing the lamest ass shit with these keys. Like what is this nonsense? Is that what you're doing with this key? Oh, go away. Give the keys away. You don't need the keys. I was getting so frustrated.
No, I couldn't tell. Not you.
Not me.
Never.
Not me at all. No, I take things very easy when it comes to my films and television. I just accept what's put in front of me. I'm like, oh, this is delightful.
You need continuity, otherwise you're like, mayhem, madness, correct, fail. It's like
All of this
I
is wrong.
oh
Yeah.
my God. Like if you were to like greenlight scripts, you'd be like, no, no. How does that happen?
Oh,
Yeah, I need you to lay it out for me. No.
I
Fail.
did. I did read a couple scripts for a producer because I was just like I was their PA, and they're like, "Hey, can you read these? Let me know what you think about them." Blah blah blah.
Oh no, those poor people.
Only one script I liked, and even the producer was just like, "Finally, you like something." I was
Ah,
like,
see, I told
"Yes."
you. Let the record show. It has been said on multiple occasions. Tracy likes nothing.
I like a lot
You
of
were the
things, but
hardest
even my
person
close
to
friends are like,
impress.
"You're a notorious hater."
I
I'm not a
guarantee
notorious
you,
hater.
people are probably like, yes. It's just like for you, you're like, I'm surprised there are movies on this shelf. Like, I feel like there should only be like four. And you're like, the reason I like these four films. That's it. The fact that you've made it to seasons and it's like, we're going to talk about more movies and these are movies on my shelf. And I'm like,
Yeah.
the
This is
shelf
episode
exists.
142. So
Oh
yeah,
my
I have a
God.
lot of things on my shelf. Thank you very much.
I think some of these are just hate watches and other I want to know how many of the movies you got as gifts because I don't believe you're like I bought this because I loved it. You're just like I have it, might as well talk about it. I hated it, but it's okay. It's
No,
like,
there are. Well, yeah, no, if you listen to my Lord of the Rings episode,
God, no,
I
I have to hear about you
it
talking about Lord of the Rings. No, we're good.
no. Oh, no, me talking about Lord of the Rings is I've wasted like 40 hours of my life watching this. I'm really angry about it still. This shit sucks. I'm mad. And that's why I had like a group on to talk about it because I sat there quiet, mostly quiet for most of the episode as they chatted because I was like, I'm not, no, I don't care
Well,
for this.
I will give you like a compliment
Uh-huh.
and a bottle of alcohol to sit through all three of the Hobbit movies. I'm
No,
not going to, but I want you to sit through them.
no, no, that's not a thing that's happening.
No,
That
that's
no.
why I said I'll give you the biggest compliment and a bottle of alcohol. So I'm just letting you know. Continue.
I've what if I've already sat through those three movies?
I know you haven't.
Yes, I have. I saw those three movies in the theater.
Tracy, I don't believe you, but okay.
I
It's
bet
just-
you I still have the ticket stubs. I bet you I do.
I want screenshots of those when you find them. Because I guarantee you didn't. You'd be like, oh
I
right, I
definitely
didn't.
did. I
Okay.
definitely did.
Should be Lord of the Rings.
I also saw all the Lord of the Rings movies in the theater.
Not dedicated.
Still
Not me,
mad about
thanks.
it.
Nope.
Still mad about it. Who else was in Wolverine? The guy who played Strucker was a properly bad guy. I think he did a good job
The
as the
young Scott Summers was in there for the
he
Origins.
was. He didn't. He said what, like half of a sentence at one point.
Yeah, because like I think it was more like this, like that was like their opening into Xavier's school of like, okay, here's one of the characters of how their origin story of how that started, which I understood. That was like a
Mhm.
cool little circle moment. I've
Yeah,
it kind of sucked that we saw like none of these other children. I was like,
yeah.
where's the Diamond Girl? That was cool. I want to hear
Well,
like,
I mean, technically, I read a thing about this because I was also confused because I was like, isn't that what is it? Emma Frost, I think is the character's name. Um, it's the girl that January Jones plays in X-Men First Class. And as
yes,
far as I know, they should be the same character,
makes
but
sense.
apparently they're like, no, she's not the same character. And I was like, why? And they said for reasons. And I was like,
Until
okay,
you give me those reasons, it's the same character.
that's what I'm saying.
Different
I
timelines. So either way, she's like, I'm a bad person in this. I was never saved.
Yeah. But also, like, as far as I know, Emma Frost doesn't have a sister in the regular comics.
She was completely forgotten anyway. They were just like, there's a lot
She
of
was.
continuity stuff. They were like, let's just add it, just
Yeah,
so we can
so
like tie up a loose end here.
yeah, so
Yeah.
technically she's supposed to be Emma Silverfox, I believe is the character's name in this movie because she's Kayla Silverfox's sister, but she seems to have the same power as Emma Frost. So I was like, and also the
She
same
grows up
look
and
as her.
changes her name, and she's like, I have no sister. She died. And that day, my soul died with her. So I became a bad guy.
But according to the storylines,
God, here we go.
because
Because
well,
Tracy
because
cares about continuity.
First Class takes place before these movies do, right? So, like,
So then,
X2
how is
takes
she an
place
old
in the
lady
2000s.
and then a young child?
This is the problem.
It's her daughter. Makes sense.
And that's why they're just like, no, 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 no. They look the same, but really they're different characters. It's just like a get around to be like, oh, we forgot we used her for 3 seconds in that movie. It's different people, we swear. Like that's it.
Yeah, it's
That's all
probably
it is.
that was her mom, and then she's just like, "Oh my God, I got my mutation actually not from my father, but from my mother. See, gang, gang, bling, bling, shine bright like a diamond. That's what happened. There you go, continuity tied up with a bow.
Sure. Yes,
You're
let's go
welcome."
with it.
Okay.
But also Jubilee was in there, which is a character they never, though she is like the catalyst in the original X-Men cartoon, they don't use her at all in these movies, which makes me kind of sad. I think she would have been a good character to have, but that's just
Yeah,
me.
probably just you.
Oh, come on. What? Trust me. Once you rewatch the original X-Men animated show, you'll understand what I'm talking about. All I'm
Ah,
saying. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Now, X-Men First Class. Excellent movie. Excellent movie.
Okay.
Yes. I
Wait, wait, no, 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 no. Pause, pause.
wait.
Oh, wait,
Okay.
wait. I guess we can talk about her when we. Okay, no, continue,
No,
continue.
no, no, no. Who do you want to talk about? Who do you want to talk
Uh,
about?
I was going to talk about my favorite romaine lettuce. Sorry, was that
All
something
right.
funny?
Right.
I know how much you love when I say
I
that.
feel no, but you know, this is a good time to stop because she was in the first three X-Men movies.
True.
Let's
And I
talk
was like,
about it.
the next one.
Let's talk about her. I think she was a great Mystique.
She was a phenomenal, especially because I know that a lot of the first movies weren't CGI, it was actually like makeup. So to
Yes.
sit there and see, I'm like from head to toe and to like commit and the acting, she did a very good job. And it was funny in X2 with her like saving Eric and then him being like, oh, you were so beautiful.
Hmm.
Bye. It's
Yeah,
like,
I was like, oh my God, you're just gonna leave her there naked,
it's-
sprawled on a bus? Like,
oh, I was like, my
what?
girl,
Mhm.
goodbye.
Yeah.
I was like, no more romaine lettuce. Um, so, I don't know. I was just like, um, losing her powers after all of her sacrifices. I liked that the newer trilogy that or whatever you want to call it, because there's four movies instead of three, that they focus on why she has such uh her bond with Eric and how that all like her loyalty, even
Yeah.
though she should technically have it with Professor Xavier, but she's like,
Hmm.
you're too mightier than thou, and she's like, we see things, the people as they are, and how we're treated. Whereas like, Xavier's like, rise above everything, people like we want to fit in and we love people, and the rest of them are like, no, they're peasants, they're bugs. We're better than this.
No, but I think the real reason why she left is that because so Eric looked at her and was like, you shouldn't hide, you should be who you are, go about your business as as a person, right? And then in 2 seconds later, she does this in front of Charles, and Charles is like, "Oh God, put on some clothes. Ugh, I don't want to see this." Like, no, is essentially what happened, and she was just like, Oh, you don't get it. Okay. But I think that was just him being like a younger person, you know? I
I
feel
think
like
one because he's just like it's hard for but think about it this way, because even when it's Beast, even he has clothes on.
yes.
But he's like, you're not seeing anything. I'm just the beast. And she's like, I'm literally going to be completely naked and
Mhm.
you're going to see my body. And he's like, I put a
Well,
towel on you when I first met you. And we've been kind of like keeping things at bay ever since. I think had she used her words first to be like, I'm tired of hiding. I want to be as I am, things
mhm.
could have been such a different timeline.
Well, that's like yes, I agree with you because it's like you can't just like completely change yourself and then in her case literally and then just like without giving people not even a warning, just be like, I want to sit you down, I want to have a little discussion with you, I don't want to hide myself anymore, I want to be this person, and for me to use my powers correctly I can't wear clothes, right? I have to be my blue self, walk around, flip into things. But if I'm wearing like jeans and I try to flip into something, I gotta take the jeans off first to flip into something, you know? Like it's that kind of thing, you know? But I feel like she should have had a discussion with him instead of just getting mad. Because
Yeah.
he doesn't understand where she's coming from or what she's doing. He's just in the kitchen or writing his
They
paper
were
and
on
she
the
just
same,
walks in.
yeah. They were on the same wavelength for like the longest time because it was just the two of them. And then Eric comes in, he's just like, let me start putting like these things in your ear. Like I see more for you and kind of like radicalizing her. And he's
Hmm.
just like, now I've flipped you onto my side, so it's two against one. And like the professor act like Xavier never saw it coming from any side. He was just like, I've only known you as one person, and we've only talked about like having the same goal for the longest time, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're like, why do you want me to cover up? Are you ashamed of me? And it's like, I thought you like for the longest time you wanted to fit in, so that's why we did
Yeah,
this.
like
But
that was your thing. You're just like, I want to hide from people because I look like this,
yeah,
you know. Um, but like the thing with watching First Class, like it's a long movie, but I feel like they don't waste any screen time, which I really enjoy. It's not just like a lot of like vistas and look at how cool this thing is. It's
oh,
like they're like, no, they take their time introducing the character. I'm sorry, they can't help but say, "Do look how cool this is," because they're mutants with superpowers. It's cool. That's what's gonna happen. Um, but like the movie progresses and like you understand everybody's motivations and everybody's wants. Their the characters they create, even if they're not comic book accurate, the character they create within the movie makes sense for the character they created within the movie, which I really like. And like the bond between Eric and Charles, and the bond between Charles and Mystique, and the bond between Mystique and Eric are all very understandable. Like, and you're like, these make sense. And you're
yeah.
like, I like, they didn't rush it, but they didn't just meander to it. They're like, no, this is the reason why this works. And
They're
this is
also
what
just
really
like, this
happened.
is how we became how we are now. Because they're just like, this is how we started. This is all the things that happen. And every time, like, they've saved each other or like giving each other the benefit of the doubt and how they've kind of like played off of each other. But it was funny because in, correct me if I'm wrong, because you'll have more of a background with the comics and uh, the cartoons as well. But was Mystique as big of a character now and in the movies as she was back then in the comics and the shows?
In the comics, yes, she did have her own series for a while in comic books.
Okay.
She did show up a lot in the TV show, but she wasn't like a main villain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because there was like Mr. Sinister, there was of course Magneto. Who else do I remember? They spent a lot of time on like Genosha, like the weird island with dinosaurs and stuff.
Okay.
They spend a lot of time fighting Sentinels. Like like I said, I didn't really get to rewatch the original
Yes.
show. So I'm not 100% sure, but in the comic book wise, like she was a big character. She also had her own series. Like, and it was actually a really good series. Like I have quite a few comic books from the series. It was good. I liked it at least, and they made her like a properly interesting character.
They did.
Yeah.
They definitely did, especially on like on film. Because I was just like, okay, like she has a big enough role as my favorite romaine lettuce for all three films or
Mhm.
all the first two films, and then to kind of like give her a very large leading role as Jennifer Lawrence in like when they reboot it and drop everybody to be younger. But then I was like, okay, past First Class, and I get what they're doing, trying to like really establish this like teamwork and this partnership. I'm like, why is she still like the focal point? And does she need to be? Um, Anything else, anyone else, or is it just because they're like, well, we have Jennifer Lawrence, this is our big name as well, let's make the movie? Because I was just like, okay, enough. Because like also it's okay, like also when you go back and rewatch it, it's just like there is no bond between Charles Xavier and Mystique. It's really just Eric and Professor X.
Really? No,
When I go back and
there's
watch it, I was just like, there's no like kinship the way that every time that they would jump back in the newer ones, and he was just like trying to talk her into coming back on his side kind of thing, or like in them having like a truce of sorts. But in like the older ones, I was just like, nope, Romaine lettuce doesn't really um kind of like seem like we're like old friends in a sense. It's
Oh
more
no
like,
no no. Oh, that's what you mean. No,
yeah,
in the first trilogy, no. There's no well, this is also one of the reasons why this is part of my issue with the timelines with like first
the
class and stuff
okay,
where like they see Mystique for the first time in X-Men and everybody's shocked, whereas Xavier should have just been like, "Oh, it's Mystique. Hi, how's it going?" Like it should have been like that kind of
yeah,
thing. You know what I mean? Um, and it's and I know a lot of it was done for like introductory purposes and all this kind of stuff, but at the same time, I'm like, you can't come back with a storyline where everybody has known each other for like 30 years, but then, in that time period, you're just like, oh, we've just forgotten about each other. You're like,
literally,
that
yeah.
doesn't work, you
Because
know?
I it would have been maybe if like the start hadn't been Mystique and Professor X for as like long as it had. I would have understood if it had been more brief,
Yeah.
and if Eric had been introduced a lot sooner, and then they had parted ways a lot quicker. But the two men kind of always had like this kinship of I see where the other's coming from, but I want more, and it's kind of like that push pull
Yeah.
and Misty kind of being the background. So to sit there and I get with the whole timeline, they're like, we're doing something completely different. And I'm like, this isn't
This is not working. It's
just
not
like
working.
I have to watch both of them almost as like separate franchises and kind of keep it like that because when I sit there and I go in to sit there and watch the newer ones, perfectly fine. I loved how they did both Charles and Eric has like their whole history together, and it also translates to the older ones. Perfectly
Yeah.
fine of old friend, old chum, and I'm like, okay, that's perfectly understandable. But then to sit there and add in Mystique and give her as large of a role, I was like, okay, I get that you're important and I understand that, and maybe I'm not understanding like the significance, but I was just like, you have more than one movie where you're like the focal point, and I don't know if it's just because they're like, we got a big brand name to go along with the character and not hey, because I would have preferred had it just been the two males and then be the whole push pull. Let's start
Yeah.
a team together, and then that would be the
Yeah.
divide instead of it being like we actually came together because of Mystique. And I was like, Lord, give me
Yeah.
strength.
Or like they find Mystique together
Yeah.
and that's the thing that breaks them apart, instead of
Or
like,
she's the one that starts like kind of like weaving in like that sense of doubt between them, and that would have made more sense to me than anything. But yeah, yeah, I was like, ooh, continuity.
mm,
Shake, shake. Not the best.
continuity is a bitch when you try to do prequels. Like but that's the thing with prequels as well. It's like you know where your end point is, but you also have to make that endpoint still surprising when people are watching it. And I think that's one of the reasons why like they add these little things in there, but then you're just like, but it actually doesn't make sense why it's there. But also we most people watching those movies at the time, I was like, I don't actually know what came between the two of them, but we'll see. And it could have just been Mystique, and that would have been fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So,
I agree.
but overall though, like if you had never watched the original trilogy, you'll be like, this is a fantastic movie. I really like it. I do like the one thing that got me about this movie though is so at the beginning of X-Men, they show Eric's origins
Yes.
at internment camp, during like World War II, pulling at the gates and stuff. Then
Bullshit.
in first class, they show the same sequence, and I honestly thought they just cut, they just took the footage from X Men and put it in there. No, they just recreated it almost exactly shot for shot. It's actually a different kid, different actors, everything. And yeah, it is. Yeah, no, I fully had both movies up and
Of
was
course you
flipping back and forth because I was like, no, 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 this is the same scene. No, everybody was different, but
Okay.
they recreated that scene so perfectly that I was shook. I was like, "What? This is not. They didn't just like cut footage."
They also had to be like, we have to do a little bit more
Yeah,
background with this scene. So they're like, we gave this clip. Now we just have to put this clip and blow it up on a bigger scale and give it more context than what we gave initially, which was fine.
yeah,
But I
which
was
is
just
fine.
like, I'm like, Eric's whole hating of the world. I was like, I'm so there with you, with you,
Yeah,
dude. I'm like,
yeah. No, they.
me too.
You're like you really understand his motivations through these
Oh
movies. You're
yeah,
just like, oh
completely.
no, yeah, we get it.
Yeah,
Um,
especially with the and I think it's in the older ones when they're just like not what's your name or where's your mark or whatever.
oh,
And
where's
he's
your
like,
mark?
yeah, and
Yes,
he's like a needle or no mark will ever touch this skin again. And I was like, powerful shit there. It's
it
like,
is.
and
It
then it was
is.
like we jump back to like little Eric and I was like, oh, he has his nut still marked in his skin. It's so
Yes.
sad. But
No.
yeah.
But that was like an intense opening sequence. And then there was like the scene in Argentina when he like tracks down the Nazi generals or whatever. Oh my God. What? Oh my God. So
You're
good.
like sipping a margarita, and all of a sudden it's just like, dude, it wasn't my choice. I'm so sorry. I'm glad you're alive. Ta. But and it's like, well, death to you and everyone whoever like separated me from my mom, and bang, bang, bang. But yeah,
Yes. Exactly. Exactly. It was you understand where he's coming from.
the
They
whole
do
time,
not
yeah.
make that a easy story.
They definitely did perfect casting with James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender
Yeah.
for to be like they're gonna play a young one. I was just like, I think for especially when they decide to make James McAvoy Paul, I was like, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. And then Fassbender putting on like the Magneto cap for the first
Yeah.
time, and I was like, I don't hate
Hate
it.
it.
Like,
Yes,
okay,
yeah.
you guys did
The
well.
funny the funny thing is when Kevin Bacon had it on, I was like, that looks weird. And then fast when I put it on, I'm like, oh, they made it for your face. Got it. Okay. All right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I always forget that Kevin
Yeah.
Bacon, as the
He
people
played
say, he's
he
beloved.
yeah, he played such a good bad guy though. He was
Yeah,
so good.
yeah,
Yeah.
he
You
did.
understood like his menace and stuff. And I'm sorry, the scene where he puts the coin through his head.
I was dying. So I was like, and it was just like, and hold, and he's like, Eric, no,
Uh,
it's like, and
yeah.
scene. It's
Like to
like,
be honest, like he deserves it. I'm not saying no, but also I was like, that is brutal. That
oh,
is brutal. Like, oh my God. Like, ugh. He was an evil man.
I mean, revenge is a dish best served cold or whatever the people say, and
Yeah.
it was like the whole thing was like Eric kind of like getting his revenge and like is it like you've made it through the bottom of the list, like you should feel complete and done now, and it's just like it's not enough, and it's like okay, well, when is
Yeah.
enough? And like the whole second part of the franchise is like he never kind of like gets enough or knows peace, and he's just like, I'll be happy when this happens, or this is the next step and this needs to happen. It's just like, I think you're guessing and hoping and like really assuming that this is going to be the next thing for you and it's just going to work out, and kind of like he's still searching for answers for himself, and it never really
Mhm.
kind of like
He never
comes full
gets
circle.
there. Yeah.
So
Well, because I think the bond between Eric and Charles is that they actually have the same goal,
yeah,
right? It's they want mutants to not have to hide and be able to live in society and be fine, right? That is their goal. But, Charles's version is people have to be given time to understand us. Let's educate them. Let's keep the mutants safe, blah, blah, blah. And Eric's just like, let's murder everybody who tries to murder us. Everybody should fucking die. I don't care. Be like, nah, I gotta save myself. And to be honest, like through the movies, there's a lot of atrocities to mutants. And you understand why he gets angrier and angrier and angrier.
was like it was very much a pain, and it's that I understood. So I was just like,
Mhm.
everything was like, it was funny because it was like two sides to a coin, and each side was justified with being like, one being like peace and one being like complete carnage, and it was just like, it's like, well, this is the way to get there, and it's like, okay, but you're a pacifist, but like no one wants to sit there and lay down and take it. They kind of just want to be, and the other side's just like, well, you can't kill everyone because they don't agree with you, but also you're being treated horribly, so what else can you do? So it was just like the whole thing was the battle from like literally the first franchise into the second. So I was like, no, at least they kept that still going to being like, it's not even like a good versus bad. It's like we do want the same end goal, and how do we achieve it? And it's like, this is gonna but tear our own people apart, because it's just like, again, like even if you're just gonna look at, if you don't fit in, i.e., like Rogue or Mystique or Beast, they're just like, Beast even had a chance of going either. I was surprised that he could have gone either way, because it's just like him being like, I want to be on the pacifist side. Like, he didn't really necessarily go outside as much. It took kind of a while for him to be out in public and be comfortable in his skin. And then when you see him in the older ones being like, I help write reforms and get us further and further along so that you can be who you are,
Yeah.
which was very interesting, versus people that are like, like Storm being like, I can pass for just a regular person, or Xavier being like, I can just roll on like a regular distinguished person, and same with Jean. But then you have like Cyclops or Rogue, and they're like, if I do something or look somewhere or say like kind of interact with people, I can't really blend in with the others. People know that something's off, and they're just like, you're one of them. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, I can't really fit in. And it's like, I'm doing nothing to hurt these people, but you know, at I just want to live, and I'm not given that
Yeah.
choice. So
Yeah, you get the stares, you get the whispers, and that can be super frustrating. That
I
can be
mean, we
very
do see
frustrating.
that in one of the first scene for X2 with the whole the museum scene.
Yes.
And I was like, ooh. And she's like, well, even like when the little girl's like licking the ice cream, and then like the little kid turns back, being like, kind of like to smile, and she's like, and then he's like, bitch, so this
Yeah.
time. And then she's like, start being like, not here, and not
Yeah.
now. And I was just
Yeah.
like, the kid was just kind of like smiling, and it was just like he did nothing, and that little girl wanted to be a brat, and he was just like, well, cool. But even just like uh Pyro not wanting to give up his lighter, and them
Mhm.
like pestering him, and it was almost like kind of like a bully thing. They were lucky they had powers, but
Mhm.
to sit there and be like, okay, well, Rogue could have literally just taken off her glove and touched the guy for like looking at her the wrong way, and Bobby being like,
Yeah.
no, like chill, like we got this, it's fine. And then the guy coming and stealing the lighter, and then Xavier having to completely like dissipate the whole um scene that was about to, like the scene that they were about to cause, by being like, okay, time to wrap it up. It's time for us to
Yeah.
go home.
We're leaving now. Yes. Yeah.
Pack up all things. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, I think that's also the difference between the people who took Magneto's side compared to who took Charles' side, right?
yeah,
It's like Pyro's just like, nah, I want to start fights. I want to show people my powers. Like, yeah, I might be able to blend in, but I will cut a bitch and they need to know. Whereas like the other people are just like just people are just stupid. They don't know that we're mutants. They're just assholes. Just leave it. And I think that's the biggest difference. Is like Magneto's people want the fight. They want to get aggravated so that they have a reason to take you out. You know.
Very
So
much like today, but it's fine.
yes, very much like today. Oh, society. Um, I love it when people are just like, oh, like why can't movies be so non-biased and non-political like they used to be, like an X-Men movie? And I'm like, did you watch the movie? Do
I was
you
like, there's a lot of uh
do you not understand what's going on in there? Like, no? Okay.
if they had done the certain mutants a certain race, this would have been like, oh my God, this is so woke. I'd be like,
Right?
well,
It always has
unfortunately.
been. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming to
uh,
my attention.
yeah, and after that, like Days of Future Past is actually really good as well. I watched that one today
Mm.
and I was like, oh, this actually, I mean, the time travel aspect's a little wonky if you think about it too much. But it's good. It's good.
You're
I'm
like,
I'm trying not to think about it too much, is all I'm saying. Because I enjoyed the movie so much that I'm trying not to think about it.
I thought it was like I don't know. I think that they were all well done. I don't think there was any of them that I was like, I want to go back and watch it one more time because I just loved it that much. I did like Evan Peters being introduced in that one.
Who's
Um,
Evan Peters?
uh, s- not so, what was his character? He was basically Magneto's child.
Oh, Quicksilver?
Here we go. I was like Silver Surfer. It's like that's not the right character.
People will cut you.
I
No.
was like, same thing, guys.
Oh God. No.
You knew
Very different.
you knew what I meant. It's fine. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's an interesting one, but I that's not a character that I was familiar with going into the movie. So I was like,
Me
oh,
either,
okay.
but I enjoyed him. I think he was delightful.
I did. I do like that they decided to like actually give Kitty a role from I think it's the last stand and then into the new franchise because then they give it to Elliot Page. But
Yeah.
I was just like because she's actually in or Kitty appears first in X2 X-Men United because she runs through the walls but she's
No,
not
is
actually
it?
not a
Doesn't she
main
show
character.
up? Doesn't she also show up in the first X-Men movie?
Probably. Oh yes, yes.
Yeah.
But they were like
Yeah,
not
she leaves
necessary.
class or whatever.
She's like just walk through the wall, and then like the second one that she's like running while like screaming, and it was like okay, okay, and then like the three dots, and then it was like okay, we're actually gonna give a face to this character, and they're like, welcome Elliot Page. And it was like you
Yes.
are Kitty, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. But yeah, no,
Hmm.
I think that that was a pretty cool with them jumping back and forth.
Hmm.
There
That
wasn't
was what.
anything crazy about that franchise that I was just like none of them made me that's not something that made me want to go back and like rewatch it and be like this was so well done. I think like the first ones I can rewatch and be like yeah, still very good. But like
Mhm.
the newer ones I'm like, I could take them or leave them.
No, I really like First Class and Days of Future Past. I will watch those over and over. Now, Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, however, uh, at this point, Dark Phoenix is the only one I have not watched more than once. Because I rewatched New Mutants for this because I was like, I remember nothing about this movie.
I
So let me watch one of the movies that I do not remember because I could talk about the rest of these movies without
yeah.
rewatching them easily. That was not an issue. But those two, I was like, ugh.
Let me see if
Um,
I remember off of the characters. Yeah, I remember the context of New Mutants. I didn't care for it. I think I watched it and I was like, oh, is that it? But
it's a movie that doesn't know what it wanted to be. Was it a
I
coming of
definitely
age
agree.
story? Was it a horror movie? Was it a queer love story? Was it yeah, I was just like, what movie are you making?
Yeah, I
And
think
it
that there was a
just
lot of confusion and even like with all of the movies, I'm able to to see the characters and be like, oh, I forget that. I remember that this is what these are important things that happen, and this is like the gist of the movie. This one, I'm like looking at it, and I'm like, I just remember Anna Taylor-Joy as like this badass bitch. Side note, she's one of the ones I would have put on my list as well for ballerina that we were talking about earlier. So you can cut
Oh
this piece.
yes, that would have
But I
been.
was
She
like,
would have been good. Yeah,
I could have seen her as it.
yeah.
So either way, back to our conversation. But Anna Taylor Joy is a badass. Maisie Williams, I was like, I know that she was just coming off. Is this before? This would have been after the Game of Thrones
Would
because
it
Game of
have been
Thrones
done
finished.
already? It probably would
I
have been
think
done already.
it would
Yeah.
have been done because this was like during the pandemic that this movie roughly came out.
It was
But I was just
2020,
like,
but apparently this was filmed like 2 or 3 years before, and
anyway,
it.
so I think she
Yeah,
was just finishing up Game of Thrones at that
yeah.
point. They were like, "Oh, okay, cool." And I was like, "I'm not invested in any of these characters. I don't
Mhm.
remember the
Well, they don't.
storyline. It was very forgettable."
Well, this is the problem. Like, they don't introduce the characters in a way that you care about the characters.
Fair,
Like,
yes.
I watched the movie, and I was like, within 2 minutes, I don't know who anybody is. I don't know what their powers are. I know this one's the bitchy one. That's the jock guy. This kid's emo for some reason. Whatever. And it's like you don't they 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 try to do like a Breakfast Club thing where at one point in time they all like pseudo couple off and they have like their deep, discussions about like what brought them to this hospital or like what trauma's been in their life. And I was sitting there going, I don't care. That's fine. I don't what? I have no interest in any of you. I have
Literally,
no
I was
interest in
like,
any of the storyline.
I was just like, this is not a movie that I will be rewatching at any point in time. I think when I was done it, I was like, oh,
The only thing I will
it was a
say
mess.
that I'm slightly mad about in this movie
I like
is
the effects.
that so they bring up a thing where the doctor running the place, her bosses work for the Essex Corp. And I was like, I don't know what that is. And of course I looked it up. And apparently it's a corporation that's owned by Mr. Sinister. And I was like, we could have had Sinister if this movie was good. I would have fucking lost my mind. That would have
Uh,
been an interesting character. But also, I don't know how to do Sinister in a way that he doesn't come across in live action as a drag queen, because that's gonna be
this movie would have really been Happy Prom.
no. Because I'm sorry, no, his suit, though very like dark or whatever, is surprisingly flamboyant. Like it's black and slightly purple, and he's got this cape that's like strands with this giant collar, and he's got like this intense makeup, and he's like a character that chews scenery. And if it is done bad, it's gonna be horrible. But if you just happen to get the right person to do it, it would be fantastic. But also, I guess whoever wrote New Mutants would have probably written the Sinister storyline if they got another movie. I'm really glad they didn't. But I am mad we didn't get Sinister now. That's what I'm slightly
That
upset about.
definitely had elements of it, and they no, I don't think that the effects were really well done. I don't think there was a lot of costuming, so they probably would have alluded to the character and probably introduced him, but without the makeup. So you'd have been like, "Is that who I think it is?"
Yeah,
And that would have been where it ended. Aside from that, yeah, I think that would have been all that you got.
got
Because
out of it
and then
exactly.
otherwise, if you got everything all in once, you'd have been like, "No, this is horrible. Oh my God!" And then you'd have been like, "Oh my God!" You're
There
like,
would be there would have been a whole lot more ranting. I'll tell you
there would
that.
have been a letter to the editor. That's what that would have been. That's what it
I
would
mean, like,
have.
here are all the things you did wrong. Okay.
You're
We're
like,
gonna
and let's
start over
begin.
here.
I have my quill.
So what do you think about the movie The Wolverine? Not Origins, The Wolverine. Have you actually watched it?
I didn't, I can't remember if I actually rewatched it because those ones I get not confused. I'm just like, um, Okay, yes, I do. I did not rewatch it. Uh, I didn't care for it. It was such a
No.
random piece. Uh, The thing is, watching Logan, I was like, when does he end up in China or Japan? And it's the Wolverine that I'm getting confused with.
Wrong movie. Very wrong movie.
Right?
Oh my
Like,
God.
it's like, oh, okay. And they had such a good cast. But
Well,
I was
that's the
like, I
thing.
just didn't understand or care for any of the movie that I was just like, this is so
I don't know.
confusing.
The Wolverine, the first, I would say 45 minutes, like the part in Japan where he saves the guy and then he's coming back over and blah, blah, blah. Like all that stuff is interesting, right? But then as soon as like he saves the daughter and they're on the island, they go to like the little island and like they fall in love and blah, blah. And I'm just like, fuck off. And then it just turns into like Omega Red. He's trying to steal his adamantium and I'm like, "No. What is no, what? No." Like it was a whole thing.
The- I'm so sorry. And I feel like it's just more of a, I cannot stand, I think her name is Ryla Fukushima, and she plays Yukio. I cannot stand her bangs. So to sit there and I believe she plays his love interest is so
Yeah.
dis distracting to me that I was just like, I've already lost this
You
movie.
just hate it because of her bangs?
Hey, as a big forehead girl myself, this was not it. And I know she like goes for like bolder statement type of looks, which is perfectly
Yeah.
fine. I love her as a badass when she
Wait,
does like her fighting stuff, but yeah, no.
sorry, Ryla Fukushima?
Yeah.
She does not play the love interest.
Is it Mariko?
It
Ishida?
I'm trying to figure out which one it is. Yeah, because yeah, it's Mariko is the ends up being the love interest.
See,
Yeah,
yeah, no. We watched the movie, I think like maybe twice, and I was like, that's it for me. I just
yeah,
remember
no,
I didn't care. It was a very confusing time.
yeah.
And nothing was memorable. Like, unfortunately, nothing was
That's
memorable in this
fine.
movie. But
That is not a movie I'm going to argue about. Yeah, that's fine.
I was like, okay. Like, I will rewatch Origins as like a hate watch, and
Okay.
just be like, okay, there's enough going on in there, and enough like characters that I was like, yeah, this could have been a fun time. But the Wolverine, I was like, so we gave the man katanas and he has his claws and I don't know what's going on here. We sent him off to Japan.
Uh,
We just said, "Hey, have fun." We don't we
well,
like he's
there's
down for
there.
another movie and
Yeah.
let's just fuck it up. That's what happened there.
I mean, there is comic books where Wolverine goes to Japan and has connections there and all this kind of stuff. So that
I'm
part of the
not
storyline, I get
That's
it. I
fine.
get it.
That's
But
fine.
that part of the storyline did not throw me. It was just 45 minutes in, it turned into this weird love thing, and then it turned into some other nonsense that
Was a
I'm
lot
confused
going
about.
on and they tapped every all of the main Asians that they know in Hollywood, and they were like, "Guys, you get to be in this big blockbuster." Because I absolutely love Brian T. And William Lee, but I was just like, I don't care for any of
No,
this, and
no.
none of this is memorable.
Yeah, agreed.
Wait, oh no, is that what's her? I thought it would be her. Never mind. Oh no, she was in it.
Who?
Yumiko is in the Wolverine.
Go.
Mariko Staff.
I don't know who you're talking about.
Well,
What is her character name?
Mariko Staff.
Oh yeah, no, her, yeah. Tao Okamoto? Her?
Yeah. Why does she look different there? She looks different in the picture. I'm like, was she in Deadpool? Like, so, with the blonde.
Oh.
What's her name? Her and Wade absolutely have like a.
Hi Wade. Hi Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yes.
Um, no, I don't think that's the same person.
Okay. Well, not me being racist. Poor me. Sorry, guys.
How dare you?
Like. Asian Heritage Month, I completely will sign myself up for the next time. So sorry. The Jamaican Chinese in me is like failing. It's I can't help.
F. Yes.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna defend the Wolverine.
awful movie. I'm sorry.
It has a great opening war sequence. Great. I really liked it. Past that, it's straight down. Well, no, it goes like down like a little crevasse and then goes across and then it hits a cliff and falls off. And you're like, oh, okay.
Cliff. It's
It
a
hurts me.
cliff.
Well, you brought it up. You brought up Logan. You
Oh.
said earlier today, you said you had a take on it that I would get upset about, I think.
So,
I
so
need
I
to I need
watched
to hear
it
this.
and I got through it and I was like, that's it. I'm so sorry. Uh, Everyone's like, this was a masterpiece. Didn't care.
I actually think this is not just a good superhero movie, it's a good movie. Like in general. It's a good movie that just happens to have superheroes in it, is how my brain worked on this
That
movie.
is fine. I do agree with that. X-23 drove me up a wall like 80% of the movie.
Yeah.
Didn't care for her. And I was just like, I'm perfectly fine with you just leaving her on the side of the road somewhere. I'm perfectly okay with this. Every minute my girl wanted to go to Dakota, Montana, or whatever, and I was just like, I get it. Um, and then when she starts speaking finally in English, and I was like, what is her point? Like, I'm so confused. Um, I did like I wasn't invested. I had so many questions and I was so confused. And I feel like I'll probably, when the marathon's on, watch everything. So maybe I can like be like, oh, okay. But I wasn't invested at all. And
Oh,
even like everyone's like, it's a great closure for Logan. And I was like, so he dies by a branch.
yes. In the woods. He's a man who came from nowhere and he dies nowhere. It's like a full circle life. But also, he
I'm like,
made something of his life by not just helping the X-Men, but also by saving these children as like this final act of sacrifice in a death he thought would never come. It's a big deal.
yay. I was like sitting there being like, okay, this movie is supposed to be extremely long. Okay, I'm sad. I'm ready for
Yeah.
this. And I was like, I care about none of them.
I
I
don't
don't know why.
understand
So
why.
I think I wanted more of like, for the most part, like what was going on with Professor Xavier, aside from him being sick and then having the seizures and needing to take the medication. Um, I did like Caliban's character with the whole albino. My guy was just being roasted in the sun. But I genuinely love Stephen Merchant. Um, but yeah, with like the doctors chasing them. Um, Donald Pierce or Pierce looking being like, where's the girl?
Mhm.
Him being able to find the children kind of like by a fluke. Nothing really kind of made sense there. Yeah, I was like, there was nothing for me to even like the fact that I'm like, oh, he's at peace now. I was like, that's how they kill an icon.
What? They riddled him
And
with
now I
bullets.
completely understand why they had to resurrect his ass for Deadpool. Because I was like, you
What are
can't
you
die that
talking
quick.
about? You're
You know that's
crazy.
another timeline, but I was just like, yeah.
He didn't just die. His whole body was riddled with bullets and stab wounds that could not heal anymore like he used to. That's why he died. He
Look,
thought
so
death would
basically,
never come.
eventually he was gonna die. So all he had to really do, even though he was like, you know what, Charles, we're both gonna go and sail on a boat in the middle of the ocean. Even though I think that his adamantium would eventually have sunk that boat, but it's just like we're gonna go and sail, and even though you're gonna have these seizures in the middle of the open ocean, and I'm just gonna like wait for death to find me, bitch. What?
Yeah. Well, because the thing is, Charles's seizures. affected a specific radius. That's why they were in like a silo in the middle of nowhere.
No shit. Them being at the casino, and everyone's just like, ah.
Exactly.
I'm like,
But also, I like so this did not come up in the movies at any point in time, but my theory, I haven't read anything about this, but my theory is because they keep making reference that an event happened in Xavier's past, and that's when the seizure started happening. And there's a character called Onslaught that made an appearance in the comic books in the late 90s, early 2000s, that turned out to be a part of uh, like Xavier's psyche, imagined in real life. And that's why he was able to like, and he like murders a bunch of like the X-Men and stuff like that.
I want
Um,
that movie.
that would have been, I don't, honestly, to create that movie, they would have to start a whole new X-Men universe and work their
I
way
mean,
up
they
to it.
kind of did it when they decided to do Wolverine and tap his sister from utero and be like, so Cassandra's gonna kill everybody.
Yes.
And they were like, she's like, yeah, I don't want to deal with this, and just like sticks her hands in like
And into,
people's mouths and
oh,
eyes. And she's
I'm
like, death to you.
I'm sorry, that effect of just sticking our fingers into like people's faces and stuff was revolting. It is so revolting.
Like, we need it
Like,
to
oh
be
my
weird. And they were
God.
like, special effects and go.
Oh my God.
We're just gonna like really just run our hands through people's like mouths and everything like that. I was like,
Yeah,
that's
it's a
sexy.
lot.
I did get excited when I saw Eric LaSalle though, because you know how much I love ER. So
Hmm.
I
When
was
he
like,
showed up in there too, I was like, yes. And then,
it's
gets
like,
murdered.
oh my God, they're alive and
They,
well.
yeah, they horribly slaughter that family again. Like, oh
Oh
my
my
God.
God. But I did like when they brought younger Logan because they were like, well, it's almost like, and it's funny because it's the one thing that has held true throughout the whole franchise is like the best creation and best soldier they ever created wasn't that even when they failed with Deadpool, Wade as Deadpool, was that they were like Logan and they're like there's just something about him we feel like we can like when they injected the adamantium into him when they first recruited him for the team and they were like he is our success point and they're like they've been trying to like replicate this success to create other things and do other things and even trying with the children so they were like hey we're going to add his DNA to the children nah that's a fail so we're like let's just replicate him.
Just do that again. We're just gonna do
Remember
that
when
again.
in X2 when they had what's her name? And she was like the female Wolverine. And they were just like he's like,
Oh,
well,
they don't even give her like a real name, I don't think.
she's like experiment 626. It's like
Yeah, because she's under the control of Stryker
Riker,
as
yeah.
well. Um,
Lady Deathstrike.
it's Lady Deathstrike, right? Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it's just like for again, that was Stryker being like, okay, I found like it worked with Logan and I'm gonna replicate this one thing that worked really, really well. And then to do in Logan and be like, hey, we're actually just gonna scrap all of the children that we've been working on for years and we're just going to go with what we know. This one guy that knows how to be a soldier, knows how to follow orders. We know how to do the whole mind control thing. So we're just going to create the perfect person that was completely indestructible because even when they did Origins and Agent Zero was like, they're like, is he dead? And he's like shooting up everything. And then he's like, yeah, he's definitely dead. And then it was like, nope, 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 he's still alive.
He's still
Don't
alive. He's still
touch
alive.
me while I'm dying.
Well, I think
Um,
the thing is it's his healing factor is the thing that saves him, which to be honest, in the movies, I'm gonna nitpick again, I'm sorry,
of
sort of
course.
frustrate me. Because his healing factor in the movies work way faster than it used to in the comic books. Um, but like since the movies came out, like and even in the comic books, his healing factor works the same way now. But the thing is that unlike the difference between him and Deadpool is that Deadpool regenerates. So like if you cut off um Wolverine's hand, his hand is not going to grow back. Whereas Deadpool, his hand will. But Wolverine's nub will heal very quickly and he will live. That's the main difference between the two of them. One heals, one regenerates. Yeah. So like even if you like technically if you cut off Wade's head, he can grow his head back. That has happened in the comics.
So now they're gonna do that in Marvel, and I'll be like, I'm so okay with not seeing that. Thank you so much. Just hey, Ryan Reynolds' head just rolling across my screen and him still talking.
Yeah.
Hey,
But
no,
that
I
was the reason why at the end of Wolverine Origins, if you saw the post-credit sequence, they cut to the chopped up uh Deadpool, lots of quotation marks when I say these things, and his head sitting over here and a
yeah,
hand is over here and the hand comes to life and he starts blinking. You're like, "Oh yeah, I forgot you could survive this." Got it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, no, I do remember that. I just remember seeing that movie first on bootleg. So I was like, I saw a lot of the CGI, and I was like, I'm so confused. So when I finally saw it, I was like, oh, oh, he's still alive. I was like, that's interesting.
You're like, "It's still shit, but he's still alive." There you go.
Yes, very much.
Done.
I was like, yeah, I'm used to like the regeneration and fixing of
Healing
one's body
factor.
parts because yeah, that's very much Torchwood for me. So I was like, oh yeah, Jack Harkness every minute was just like, you kill me and I'm gonna come back to life through whatever way, whatever
Yeah.
painful way. So yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, but even like it's the healing factor, but Sabretooth having the same thing and then them being like, well, he wanted to be like the perfect soldier and wanted to go through the same thing, and they were like, you can't mentally, we just know you're unstable. Logan, we know we can train and control. That is something that works and we're gonna go with it. So it was very interesting to be like, oh, we're gonna go with this. This is a funny thing
Yeah.
here. But yeah,
Yeah.
no. Mm-mm.
But also, like, somebody made fun of Sabretooth like nails and be like, told him he has like a messed up manicure or whatever, or needs a
Yes.
manicure. And I was like, correct, he does need a manicure. That is
It's
what
like
he needs.
I was like, yeah, and I think it like offered with his like swords and everything like that. And I was like, oh no. I think it might have been Wade that said it. I was like,
Probably.
you want a manicure? He's like, ha ha ha. And I was like, menacing
Uh,
laugh. It's like, oh, that's interesting. Of
Sorry. So I did also, I just remembered this. So
course
we
you
were
did.
talking about New Mutants before, and I was like, oh, it's the Essex company owns this or whatever. But there's a scene in that movie where they show footage that was the same that was used in Logan of the like where they were keeping like the kids and stuff, like they were showing like the experiments or whatever, and like
Yeah,
moving
yeah.
the kids around. They used the same footage in New Mutants as they did in Logan. So maybe Sinister can still, well, no, I guess that world is ended now.
Yes, that's ended.
But,
All the children gone, all the
technically that might be Essex Corp as well, and that is owned by Mr. Sinister too. So
it's gonna take a while. I think for right now, this is definitely on the back burner. Maybe now that they've
I don't
lost
think they'll bring
Kang,
him. Yeah.
now that they've lost Kang, they're like, hey, actually, we had a build up over here in this franchise. If we bring it just like we've done Fantastic Four,
Yeah.
we have
Well,
some.
I have to see Fantastic Four first before I can agree with you on this because I need to know where they're going. And as people know, I don't like spoilers when I know I want to watch something. So I haven't watched the trailers.
Oh God.
I've managed to get as little spoilers as possible. Just being online when a thing is happening, it's almost impossible not to get at least some spoiler.
Oh
Um,
my God.
so we'll see, but I need to. I'm not watching any like deep dives into breaking down trailers and stuff to figure out what the storyline is. I'm not doing that. I'm gonna
No, no,
go
no,
into
no.
the
I'm
theater.
just saying, like
I
overall to be like, well, if they're not gonna do Kang, then and they have like the world is their oyster, and I'm like, well, if you're sitting there talking about Sinister, maybe they could bring that in and then be like, hey, this can come in
there's
a
room for it.
timeline. There, like now that we've lost this, we can actually gain this. We had lots of openings for where we can like push it through and build off of it. Um, no, I don't feel with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I haven't bothered to watch a lot of the trailers. I mean, I love me some Pedro Pascal, but
Mhm.
uh, again, I'm like, I went back and I think I binge watched the both Fantastic Fours, and it was great to see Chris Evans came on in Deadpool versus Wolverine. And
Yeah,
I was like, for some reason, I was like, I don't, that's not the Cap look. I'm like, oh my God. So when he
it's
said
very
flame on,
different. Yeah,
I was like, that is cinematic brilliance right there with that, with the two of them lining up so perfectly.
yeah.
But I was like, I'm gonna go into it with an open mind if I do catch it in theaters, but I'm not racing to watch it because I was like,
Oh
everything's
no,
being redone. No,
I
I know
gotta
you
knock
will.
people out of the way because if I get a single spoiler, I'm gonna, I'm like, look, it has been a year and a half that I've managed not to get this spoiled. And if the day after that movie comes out, I get a bunch of spoilers, I am gonna rage. I'm gonna rage.
Like find somewhere with an open theater for the day and be like, I don't care. I have to see it by myself. I can see it with other
Yes.
people later on, but I'm like, I need to see it today. I've
Yeah.
waited long enough, but I'll be
Yeah.
like, you have to, because then I'm going to put in my calendar, send Tracy the first spoiler as a screenshot in an email. I'd be like, did you see this? You should already know what's happening. That's all I'm going to say.
I will fight you. Oh
I know
my
you will,
God.
but I'm just like, oh, okay, guess what? I send you way too many emails for you to be like, I can avoid you. And I'll be like, oh my God, did you see the wrong email? So sorry. And I'll put like the wrong labels as like spoilers. And you won't answer them. I'll be like, I sent the email to Tracy. That's all that's gonna happen. It's fine.
No. Oh
Chaos.
God, I'm so scared. So much chaos is gonna happen. Oh my God.
I mean,
But
yeah.
yes, I'm actually looking forward to this movie because it looks different than what they've done before so far, aesthetically at least. So I'm interested to
We
see
have a
what they
bigger
do.
budget, so
Mhm.
everything's like the world. You just care. You just we just care that there's a proper storyline and that the actors kind of have like that good chemistry and
Yeah, that
that
they
people
work.
get
Yeah.
utilized to their full potential because it does seem like they have enough people that know what they're doing for them to be like, yeah, we're all gonna come together and this is what the script is and we kind of just all mesh well
Mhm.
versus people being thrown together and you're like, yeah, I didn't care. Like there was no camaraderie.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
or
Yeah.
enough and it's not like it's a because when you look at X-Men and then you have like Logan coming in as like this outsider that's like I don't care, I don't want to do this. Die everybody, die. Or it's
Yeah.
like he's really the embodiment of like fuck them kids, which I absolutely loved. I think I love that the most. He's just, like, can you watch the kids? And he's like, bro, and he's like, or when he's like, when he sits in the fridge and he's like, do y'all have beer? He's like,
Like
this is
it's
a
a
school.
yeah.
And he's like, I'm sorry, your point being,
Yeah.
where
It's
he's
like
like,
I don't
I guess I'll have
understand
a, do
what
you have
this
anything
answer
better than
is.
like soda, a milk? I'm like, this man is literally me. But they kind of like really created this whole everyone kind of like works together. Everyone knows their place and works together. And it kind of just built throughout the franchise. And then even when they restarted the franchise, it still worked because they were like, we're going to focus on building this team and everybody coming together and really just kind of like focusing and it came across on screen even when Mystique made the team for herself, and Professor Xavier made the team again, or like
Mhm.
being like, "Hey, we're gonna bring everybody in. We have so many different kinds of people. We're all gonna learn how to be." And then Magneto making his team, being like, "We all have strengths. Let's really utilize those strengths." And
Yeah.
then Rogue being like, "Hey," to Logan, "We're a team," and it's just like, and then Logan finally understanding, like, you know what, guys, you these are your strengths. We're a team. Like, let's like plan this out and execute it when it came to the last stand, be like, you're gonna throw me and you're gonna run and you're gonna do this. And it was like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. But you felt that. So I'm really hoping that they're able to do a semblance of that on Fantastic Four and not just be four individuals, because even when I did watch the old ones, I was just like, nah,
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah,
of
I
missing
want
pieces.
like a good introduction to like not take up like half the movie just introducing them. I don't need all of that, right? But like just like a good introduction as like a focus of the character and why I should care about them and blah blah blah. Like because I mean they managed to do that in the other sets of X-Men movies, but for some reason for Fantastic Four, the three Fantastic Four movies, you're just like, I don't know about these people or why I
No,
should
you
care
just
about
know
them
that
or
one person is like the one of them aren't related, one's a best friend, and
yeah.
that's kind of it. And then like one used, then there's a pair of exes there, but eventually they get married again. But it's just like, okay, how did this start? Why are you guys the way you are?
Yeah.
Not how did you guys become you? Like the how was always explained, but I was like, when it came to X-Men, I did like that they took the time to be like, oh, I was born like this, or like they found the person when it was like they were showing their latent mutancy powers, or when it came to like the newer side of the franchise being like, this is how this is I am so and so, and this is my power, and this is what I can do. And it was just like, okay, that's so cool, and let's highlight that. And it was like,
Yeah.
and then it was like, I even when they I think it was it first class and then into Days of Future Past where she was like, these were my friends and they were all dead.
Oh yeah,
And
it's both of them because they so in first class they do like the montage of like going around and seeing all the people
yeah,
and you
like
see all their
Havoc and everything
powers.
like that. So for
Yeah.
them to be dead, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then in Days of Future Past she's like they killed everybody. Like this is why I'm by myself. They've killed everybody. And
But
like
you care because it was like
yeah.
you got introduced to all those people, so you're like, oh, okay. I'm like, no, that's
Yeah.
so sad. I liked them.
Exactly. Exactly. You know. So it's like you understand why she's so angry and why, she's on this like very meticulous rampage, but a rampage nonetheless. You know.
I don't know. It just felt like Hunger Games extended. You burn, we burn with us. I was like, oh God.
Oh no.
I was like, look here, Katniss. You're supposed to be Mystique right now, girl. Clock
Very
in.
different. Yes.
But yeah.
So what do you think of the Deadpool movies then? Because I know we're not going to talk about Dark Phoenix. So,
Um, I think that it was very well done for like for it. You know what? It really shows uh when either a director or a creator, um, or yeah, mainly a director or a writer really cares about a character, and they're like,
mhm.
we can really bring it in, whether that is the Punisher, whether that is anything of the source, and they're just like, no, like we really care about the source material. This was done horribly before. We really want to make it correct, and you can tell when someone's a fan. And they're just like, we want to do it right, and we have to hit all of these specific notes.
Mhm.
So for him to be like, no, that was my favorite character, and it really does show because he's
Yeah.
just like, I'm basically Deadpool in the off time. Like, you could tell like he read a lot of the comics and basically created his personality off of the damn thing. Um, but no, I don't feel like I was just like, this is an interesting person. And okay, sure. Storyline, interesting. The characters, interesting.
Mhm.
And no, and I was just like, okay, this is when they did the second one, I was just like, mm,
I like the
okay.
cable Deadpool thing. Yeah.
Uh, it's like, oh, so I was like, and he just gets, and then you could like, and it just got more and more because he was like, okay, we're gonna bring in more cool characters that didn't get too much screen time off of on the X-Men side, and you just like, these were so cool when I was a kid, so like we're gonna bring them to life here.
Yeah.
Um and especially when they had like the Brad Pitt scene off of the cables. It's like, bro. I was
Yeah.
like, or was her name Lucky or Jinx?
No, Domino.
Domino, and she's just like, she's like when they see the Juggernaut, and I was like, oh my God.
Oh.
No, I thought it was a really well done spin-off of a franchise, and like, or like a reboot of a spin-off of a franchise. And then with obviously, my thoughts on Deadpool versus Wolverine, and I was just like, this is just one long action sequence. And
Yeah.
I loved the cameos, especially for Blade. I was an Elektra fan. Don't care what anyone else says, and I was
No.
like, that's fine. I'd love to like spin some knives. But I was just like, oh, okay. Like this, I think that it was very well done, but I just feel like in a sense, it's almost like I know like people will not agree, but it almost feels like one dimensional to me because I'm just like, there's not much that can be done here. I know that he's gonna have to be introduced into the rest of the franchises for it to like kind of
Well,
like
I
pick up.
but I also think that's why A, they wanted an excuse for Wolverine to come back, but
Yes.
also because like Loki season two, well, Loki in general like introduced the what are they called? The TVA.
Yes.
And then they've already also introduced like the multiverses and all this kind of stuff. It's like they're like, oh, this is how we're going to introduce him here. Therefore, therefore we can bring Wolverine back, is essentially what happened.
Again,
Um,
they're like, we need him. He's
yes.
important to us. Um, no,
Like,
I
I
don't
don't,
feel
yeah,
well, I feel as though like it was a well done franchise.
mhm,
I don't necessarily like I don't hate it. And I felt like you could tell like how much love and attention and fandom was there to me for me to not to be like, well, I didn't really care for it. I'm just like, I think that um I'm not the biggest half the time Ryan Reynolds fan, to be honest with you. So I was
yeah,
just like, I genuinely but I did like all of the Easter eggs and his chemistry with each of the characters along the way and he really did a good job of bringing a comic book character to life and you see
yes.
that so I was like oh okay
Well,
fine
because like this was when I could finally be like, oh, did you like the Deadpool movie? Yeah, that was so good. I'm like, that's fucking Deadpool. Now I could stop bitching about it.
oh
And
my
then
god
that's when oh, you're a poser. You don't know anything about Deadpool. Okay, started coming about, and I was like, what? I have been bitching at you guys about Deadpool for years. It's fine.
just
It's fine.
in some semblance of proof otherwise you're a poser and that's gay.
I do have my comic book collection.
Oh my God. Okay,
Too.
Tracy, your one comic book you bought in 2016. Relax. Relax. Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay. Relax.
Excuse
I
me.
too have a Wonder Woman. Relax. It's like,
I am offended.
you're just like, I love Deadpool. Everybody. I'm sure you love Aquaman as well. It's okay. Thank you so much.
No.
You
No.
say that now, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, it was awesome.
Wow. The first Aquaman movie was entertaining, but good? No. The second Aquaman movie, like, you are taking yourself too seriously now. This is not a good movie.
I
And
didn't
then the
care for
next
it.
time he showed up was in Justice League, and that was garbage. So it's fine.
I just, as a DC fan, watching Marvel just surpass us and make laps while we're still making the
It
same
makes
three movies makes me like, makes a side, it just makes me cringe and just die inside. We could make an amazing animated film,
yeah.
and people are like, just adapt to screen live action. And they're like,
Yes.
let's start from the beginning. We're like, no.
Well, this is my biggest problem with DC is like the early Marvel movies, like for example, Iron Man, right? Which is the first movie in the cinematic universe, was was a desperate because they were just trying to keep their stuff and save Marvel as a company. And then second of all, they got a bunch of people who love the comic books and know the character to write, direct, and produce the movies. So then you're like, you watch the movie, you're like, even if I didn't know anything about Iron Man at that point, but even I was like, these are people who love this character. You could see it. These are people who love
No,
this
yeah,
character,
I agree.
right? Whereas you watch like a Superman or Batman movie these days, and it's just like, oh no, we have a franchise, and a bunch of executives said make
Yeah,
a movie, and they're like, no, no, make it cooler, and then you have like a bunch of bullshit on your screen, and
yeah,
they know
no,
nothing about their characters, and you
a
can tell, and
1,000%.
this is the biggest problem with those last set of movies that they put out. I'm like, you know nothing about your goddamn characters. And this is why people hate these movies. The stories
Yes.
don't make any sense. The characters don't make any sense. I mean, there are sequences that look kind of okay, but for the most part, the movies don't look good either.
No, they don't. Nothing makes me like, especially when they were like, we're gonna turn Superman dark and bad. And I'm like, oh no, that
But
no.
why?
But yeah, I just feel like you can tell because I was like, I was never a Marvel person. So to sit there and be like invested in Iron Man and Captain America, and I'm like, these aren't characters that I read or cared about or knew who they were. So to sit there and be like, this movie is not bad. I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting
Well,
something. It's something different. And it was
yeah.
like all the love and attention that we put in 10 years to it to sit there and make it all the way to Endgame, being like, no, Captain America, no,
No,
Iron Man.
exactly.
Versus I'm
Exactly.
like, they're still making the 18th Batman.
Yeah. Well,
So
and that's the thing
sad.
too, is like even the Marvel movies, those were all like C-level characters before
Yeah.
they made these movies and they became popular. Like, yes, they've been around for a long time, but they were not like the forefront characters. They were like, Captain America's going over there doing some shit, but let's follow Wolverine, or let's follow, Professor X, or let's follow Deadpool somewhere. Whereas like they were C-level characters that have now been elevated. The Guardians of the Galaxy hadn't had a comic book released since like the 1960s when they made that movie. It was crazy. Was
Interesting.
it
I like
60s
that.
or 70s? Maybe
That's a cool
70s.
fact because
But it was a very long time. And people are just like, why are you making a movie with these characters? Nobody knows who they are. But it doesn't matter if you make a good movie. You make interesting characters. They all have chemistry on screen. You make a interesting story that goes somewhere. People grow and become better. Blah 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 blah. And then you have a good soundtrack. You're set.
I, yeah, it's a, well, I mean, it helps when they have Hans Zimmer for the scorecard because that's just an insta win. And that's cheating
Was Hans Zimmer the scored that movie?
for Endgame, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, makes
Yeah.
sense.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm
Oh, nope.
okay with that.
Oh my God. I was
But
like, that plays.
they had to work real hard to get up to that Hans Zimmer. Okay,
Yeah, they did.
they
They
did.
did. They
So
did. You
so
make
it's
sure. Because
fine.
I'm pretty sure that everyone kept talking about it.
Do you actually know what you're talking about?
I do. Because Steph and I were talking about it. Making sure. Yes. Oh no.
Are you wrong?
Um, he's funny enough, but he did compose for Dark Phoenix and Spider-Man 2.
Oh God. Oh, Spider-Man. Wait, Spider-Man 2.
The
Yes.
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Oh, ew. No. Okay.
You know how much you love Andrew Garfield. That's
I actually think
interesting.
Andrew Garfield's a great actor. I just don't think he was a good Spider-Man. You would know this if you listened to my Spider-Man episode. Like, come on.
To hear you compare a bunch of, I feel like it depends on the demographic for when people like certain Spider-Mans. If they're a Toby, an Andrew, or a Tom, that's just how it
I
is.
think in general everybody likes Tom Holland, and then people fight about the other two. But I like Tobey Maguire just comes across as old, but I still like him better than Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man.
See, and that's a demographic thing because yeah,
I guess
yeah,
that's
we
true.
we seem to like the Toby we grew up on,
We
you know,
grew up with yeah, that's true. That is
Toby,
true.
our first introduction.
Um, yeah, I mean, I think we covered all of the movies except for
Yeah.
Dark Phoenix because neither of us know what to say about it.
You said dark penis. I was like, excuse me,
I did not,
Tracy.
ma'am,
Yeah, this
ma'am.
this is a podcast with children.
They've sworn so much. This is a 1980s PG-13 movie, okay? Here we
I'm with friends.
go. Is there anything you want to bring up in these movies that we haven't touched on yet?
We did talk about. Oh, actually, we haven't discussed Stryker himself.
That is true. And we do see him at all the different ages.
Ew.
And he is a awful person from beginning
Sorry.
to end. Well, because even in Days of Future Past, before his son murders his wife, all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff, he's just an asshole already.
Yeah.
He's one of the few villains in these movies that you don't know what their background is. So you're just like, I don't care. Like, well, I guess no, I guess Kevin Bacon, you just meet in World War II, and he doesn't really have that much of a background. You just know he's a bad guy looking for mutants. But him and Stryker seem to be in the same place.
Yes. I feel as though Stryker had a lot of complexity to his characters, but also very simplistic. Like we have him as the military guy. So some part of it, I feel like he was just following orders, but then kind of rising up in the ranks and kind of being very inquisitive, being like, well, I want to know what makes these people tick. And when you're in that military mind, your whole thing is if the war is brought to our door, like we want to be prepared. And it's just like we're already kind of like on uneven footing with these mutants. So it's just like we have to study them and get ahead so that we can attack them first before they attacked us, even or attack us. And it's like no one's even thinking of attacking you. And it's like, and he keeps playing the bug in every stage, being like, well, we have to be prepared. We have to be prepared and ready to like go on the offense with them. His greatest thing is like having control. It's interesting to watch him both with when he has like the kid when he's like first stealing the kids in Origins and like kind of like the
No, it's
inquisitive.
X2. X2 is where he
No,
steals
no,
the
no, no,
kids.
no. I'm talking about like Origins. Like I know like not in timeline wise, but like no, it would be timeline wise. Like him stealing the kids because that's where when he has like the little diamond girl and everyone and it's just like what's going on? Like they're like he started because that's when Will.i.am's like he started stealing children. Like he wanted like the mutant kids.
No, that's an X2.
In X2 is when he was stealing the kids from the
Oh,
school.
I know what you're talking about. Yes. Okay.
Oh,
Sorry. Yes.
Tracy, keep up, girl.
Sorry.
Like he wanted lab rats because like his biggest thing is
Yes.
like he's like if I want to know how they tick, but I also want to control them. I want to get ahead. Um and like even like his surprise with seeing Logan at the school being like like you're my greatest creation and I can give you
Mhm.
what you want. You just got to come with me. And then he's just like and then Bobby like putting out the ice wall and then being like,
Mhm.
okay, we're gonna blow this. He's like, blow this out because he's almost like,
Yeah.
I'm this close. Like he slips through our fingers again. Um, and then like also like the him first being on. It's weird because you don't know when he was on board for when Charles says like I tried to help him
He
with his
tried to
son
help
Jason
his, yeah. So that's
and
it. So okay. So this is the thing that gets me with this series of movies. You sort of get to know Stryker's timeline backwards compared to all the other characters. Because so when you first get him in X2, this is at the end of his arc, right? He's mutilated his son for control. He's gonna kill all the mutants in the world because his mutant son killed his wife, and he's just been angry for years, coming up with this plan, right? Then you see him in Origins, where he sort of tricks Wolverine to come to get the adamantium and all this kind of stuff. But he's already because they in each time you see Stryker, somebody mentions his kid in some ways, like how's your son? How's this? Blah blah blah. And so when he's in Origins, his kid is already. I think his kid's already killed his wife. Right? It's at like
that
the
would
early
explain like the
stage.
whole change from we're searching from adamantium to I need to find these little fuckers because I need to find out
Mhm.
what makes them tick since the man that I put in charge of my kid uh
Yeah. Well,
is nowhere to be found.
because that's why he blames Xavier for his son's condition because he didn't come back home better. He came
Yeah,
back
he didn't
home
fix her.
and murdered my family and
Yeah.
murdered his wife or whatever. And then in especially in Days of Future Past, you hear his kid is 10 and his life is great, but he's already like, I know about mutants. I'm
Yep.
collecting mutants for
Yeah.
whoever, for like Trask at that point. And he's already I think what happened is like Trask has talked him into like, no, no, these people are dangerous. right? Because even Trask was thinking that way, and you don't even know why Trask was thinking that way. He was just like, they exist, they're scary, we have to prepare to kill them. And
Yeah.
that was it. And I feel like Trask fear mongering got into to
Here's that.
Stryker, and then Stryker's son goes crazy, and then he's like, no, like Trask was correct. We have to figure out how to kill all these people.
It was interesting to for Professor X to come in at the end of Origins to kind of save all these kids.
Mm-hmm.
Almost like he's like, I put this idea in motion and I have to save them in a sense because it's just like holy shit. But I also feel as though I really wish they would have shown that kind of like they showed how Eric's almost like origin story. They showed Professor X before he got into the chair, and I feel like this would have been a very good um little bit of a glimpse. Whether it didn't even have to be like the full like Jason murdering his mom. It would have just been like when Stryker gets home and sees that because we don't even know. It's just like he just says that Jason murdered him, but it murdered her. But it's just like, what if
Well,
it's a kind
he
of like a
he
misunderstanding because also he's like almost like nonverbal from what we're seeing as well.
well at that point in time because I'm like he's cut his head open and has trying to steal his liquids and whatever. He's done something to his son. And I don't think he's nonverbal. I think whatever atrocities were done to him has made him only do what his father says, so he doesn't do anything elsewise. If you know what I mean, right? But my other thing about this is that I like having a villain that has not been humanized because a lot of these movies you get these villains, you humanize them, and then you're like with like I mean I know with like Eric being there, you're like, "Oh no, I understand his point of view." Right? But like why can't you just have a person who is evil? Sometimes people are just evil for no real reason. And I feel like Stryker is evil. When you meet him in X2, he's evil for a reason. But then you see him as a young person, you're just like, "Oh, so he was mean before that? Oh, this is a different story." This it
Yeah.
actually changes my view of Stryker when you see the younger version of him.
No, I see what you're saying, but I'm also just like I feel like even if that was to be tied in to X2 and we get like a glimpse because like we're getting like we don't get any flashbacks of anybody, but if we got one of him and like Logan just as like a thing of like because we got like, his time and obviously we're gonna get movies with them, but to sit there and be like this was kind of like what sprung everything together, or even just his conversation with Xavier as to like, you didn't fix my son, this is all your fault, and everything that happens from here is your fault. And that would have been his reason for going to go and kidnap all these children, and Xavier having to go and save all these children.
Yeah.
Because like he finds Scott being like, hey, and Scott's like, we gotta go left. And he's like, well, how do you know? And he's just like, I just know these things. And they get out and like the plane like ramp doors comes down, but it's just like what would have like what I we know that we know Xavier's powers, but to sit there and be like, okay, what connected you to be like, hey, I'm just gonna be at this spot, aside from like when Jean kind of like resurfaces and he's like, get to Alkali Lake. It's just like,
Yeah.
what, I need more context into your powers, sir. Like you can move a
But
cup from left to right. I know that you're like, no, I just want a bad guy to be bad. Yeah. And it's like, okay.
well, that what this is why I find like I'm glad you brought it up because this is why I find Stryker's character so interesting in this series is the way he is presented, right? Because in X2 is the first time you meet him. He's this mysterious man. Then you find out the reason why he wants to kill all the X-Men and all mutants is because his son was a mutant who drove his wife crazy and she took a power drill to her own head and died, right? And he blames Professor X because he sent his kid to this school and
I
he
just want
came
to
back.
see that. I
I
don't
don't
even,
want to see that.
I want to, no, I, okay, not even to see like the aftermath of like him coming into like the wife and his son, to sit there and see him clash with the Professor Xavier, and Professor Xavier still having to play the pacifist, or hey, you took him out too early, and it's just like you're seeing an angry father that is about to like lose his shit.
Mhm.
And like you can't justify like, hey, because your kid killed your wife, like you've now lost a son and a wife. But it's just like,
Yeah,
okay,
but
this kind of spurs it on. You don't want to see it, but I do.
no, but I think the reason why it is pseudo shown is because the cruelty he has shown his own son, right? Because when his son shows up, you're like, you've lost your mind. Look what you have done to your own kid. And that's, you're clearly off kilter. And he explains why he's off kilter. And even Xavier, even he's just like, he recognizes the kid and he's like, holy you lost your mind. You did this to your own son? You're crazy. And then that's when Stryker has to justify why he did that, even though they don't show it, but he has to justify why he was so mean to his own kid. Because I don't think Stryker is trying to humanize himself. I think Stryker is um making an excuse for himself why he had to do all these things. But then when you see him younger, where he doesn't have that excuse and he's still doing those things, that's when you lose that humanization of him and you're just like, "Oh, you're just like a nasty man."
I do feel that that is probably like a very side subplot for Stryker with the whole son and thing. I feel like the main thing was control and to learn more about these mutants and to get ahead of this war that's coming our way. So it's just like that was the thing. They were just like, there's this badass guy, and they always had some form of like a military because they did have it in Logan with the bionic guy being like, I just got to follow these orders, and like
Mhm.
they had like constantly there was a Agent Zero. There was always like a military personnel that was just like, I'm on this side, and you kind of like don't understand why, but it was just like I just gotta follow. But it's just like with Stryker's storyline, you're just like, okay, so like this guy is more like I'm not one of them, but I want to find out what makes them tick and get ahead of them before they get the jump on us. And
Mhm.
that was kind of like his whole premise. And it was just like, hey, we'll kind of just add your storyline back in when it comes time. And that's just like a little caveat of like, yeah, let's do like the whole sun thing. Cause like it's more like they kind of probably just threw it together when it came to like the earlier movies, because they were just like, well, what if we just like, well, we said that like he kills him, but like that's not necessarily like the plot point, I guess, if that's what you're going with. You're like,
Mhm.
he's always been this asshole that is just I like he's a science guy. He's like, I want to find the adamantium. I want to study them. I want to get ahead, and hey, all I know is war, war, war. I'm a soldier. Like, let's just keep going, and I'm a scientist, and let's push the boundaries. And that's all he did throughout all of the whole of the franchise. And so to sit there and kind of they're like, okay, well, we're going to go backwards from your timeline now and kind of like see what show that the sun piece wasn't necessarily the biggest piece of what made you you, and I understand that,
Yeah,
yeah,
it
but I
wasn't the
was just like,
catalyst. Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
But,
And that's why I find the character interesting because I'm like, if you had just stopped with his character and X2 would have been like, oh wow, that guy was dark, but it's messed up. But then the other stories added in, it was just like, oh no, he was just messed up. He used that as an excuse to justify what he was doing. But he was always like that. He even before this craziness, he's just psycho, really.
you say psycho, I see mastermind. Like, I understand.
Are you entering your villain era? Is there something I need to know? Should
Honestly,
I
you
be
wouldn't even be
scared?
surprised. I'd be like, look, I gotta go on the winning team at this point. Like, just with this got two jerseys on, just throws it off. And I'm like, well, now that you've asked.
Yeah.
Um, I think the last thing for me is probably just your thoughts on Jean Grey throughout the series, because I know that we're not going to talk about Dark Phoenix,
We're
but
not talking about Dark. I honestly can remember almost nothing about that movie.
yeah,
So I can't bring it up. I know this the school blows up and Quicksilver saves a bunch of people. I think it's that one, or is that an apocalypse? Honestly, I can't remember.
I'll tell you.
But anyways, but Famke Jensen as Jean Grey, she doesn't do anything in the movies. She really doesn't. I mean, I think visually she portrays the character correctly. The few lines that she gets, I guess, are
Does
fine.
she?
But
Because she's supposed to be in love with Scott, and
yes,
my girl was in lust with Logan.
yes. Well, because what did she say? She flirts with the bad boy and goes home with like the quarterback or something. I forget what the actual line was, but she's like, "No, I'm just flirting with you. I'm going home to this guy." And you're like, "But the fact that you think you need to flirt, where you could just be like, Logan, we're not doing this. Okay, bye."
It's the whole time, but even like when it was like blatantly in front of Scott, and I was just like, "Sir, are you in a cuckold relationship? What is happening here?"
Yeah,
Look, like this is so uncomfortable to
yeah.
watch, and
Like,
she's just like, "Yeah," and
mhm.
it's like you can tell that they have like this deep emotional connection, and I'm just like, I don't get that with Scott, and I think that that's a problem, but
Yeah,
yeah,
they on screen, they did not have chemistry together. And
no,
I
they
think
did
it
not.
was more than just the characters. I think like the two James Marsden and Famke just did not have on-screen chemistry. But whereas I think Hugh Jackman and her had really good on-screen chemistry, so I think that's why it comes across so much
He
heavier between
sounds like
them.
he sounds rugged. He's constantly in a wife beater. He's muscular as hell. And then you have a guy with a leather jacket and a one piece sunglasses,
Yeah.
and you're like,
But
that's
in
it.
everything else, like at least written and in the cartoons, they're like in love with each other. Like they're
I did not
obsessed
get
with each
that, which is
other.
why like it didn't hit me. Like she's not even like devastated by anything. And I don't know, I was just like she had such more of a powering presence both in the comics and in the show. So sit
Hmm.
there and see this, I was just like, you're pretty, and I was just like, but she did have me second guessing, being like, wait, was she in love with Logan the whole time? I'm like, no, it was Scott, right? It
It
was
was
Scott,
Scott.
and then I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, was there a wrong cast here, or like should one of them have been recast for it to make it work for that, or was it
Yeah,
even bothering to work
I
for the
think
storyline?
they needed somebody with better chemistry, and they also needed to make her a real character and like tell Logan, no, go away. Like,
No.
like get out of here.
Bad boy.
Exactly.
Mm.
But like they didn't flesh out her character. And also like it was one of those things too where I find this happens in a lot of like when they just throw in like a love affair somewhere where you're like, I don't understand why you're obsessed with this person. They like she didn't do anything. She was just
Yeah,
pretty. And then he was like, I'm in love with you and I'm obsessed with you. And you're like, but why?
out of nowhere, because I was just like, um,
Because like Scott and her being in love is fine because when you show up, they already have history, right? And you're like, you're not going to show that history, but you have to show the love between them. But you see when like Wolverine and Jean Grey meet, and you're just like,
some
okay,
chemistry. Yeah, I'm like
there's
fireworks are going off in the background, but it was funny though because even like they didn't even give me a sense of trust with each other.
yeah,
Because even in from the first movie, when he like loses his glasses and refuses to open his eyes, and she's like, "Trust me," and I'm like, I feel like he should just know to be like, okay, like I can like you have a calming presence. I'm gonna like you're gonna talk me down off the ledge here. And it was just more like, and I get that the way it was written, the way it was shot, but I was just like, that was not convincing. It's
Yeah,
more like if I was like, I would have almost preferred like friggin' Storm being like, okay, Scott, on the count of three, turn your head to the left or to the right, and just open
something.
your eyes. But it was just like, you guys are really trying here, and I'm buying none of it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I'm so sorry.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, their love affair did not work at all on screen. But also they didn't make her a character. That seems to be a running thing for all the female characters in this. I wonder why. But
You're just a hater. That's why.
I am not a hater. I just have watched a lot of stories and I can see the storytelling. That's all.
Oh, it's
Or the
insane.
lack thereof. Mm.
Okay. Thoughts on Beast being played by Nicholas Hoult and Kelsey Grammer? Because
I
I love
love both of
Kelsey.
them. They are great. I'm
I
sorry.
think
Kelsey Grammer, when he gets into his little X-Men outfit at the end of Last Stand, and he's all jumping around, all like I was like,
yeah,
this
throwing
is
people.
perfect. This is
It took
perfect.
me forever to realize when I think I was watching it initially, and I was just like, that voice sounds so friggin' familiar. And I'm like, and I was like, that's Kelsey Grammer. It's like, oh my God. I was like, and then to sit there and literally binge watch all of Frasier and then watch again and be like, this man jumps from person to person on hands and knees and holy
Yeah.
shit. But
Love
uh
it. Yeah,
oh
love it.
yeah, but I was like Nicholas Holt as like a younger beast
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. His initial transformation into Beast, though, I was just like, oh, look at the really skinny teddy bear. Like, what's
So,
happening
it's like
here?
he's a Teletubby.
Yeah.
I guess.
He looked like he became Beast and then got a really bad haircut.
They're like, we're still fleshing out the design. We're gonna add a little more padding.
But I do like Nicholas Holt as in the role. I like Nicholas Holt in that role. I like him as Hank McCoy, like the young Hank McCoy, and you know his sciency, but also like he's also very like insecure still about himself, even though he is a
Yeah.
genius. And he's like, I shouldn't have to worry about this because I'm super smart and I can fix stuff, which I think is essentially what happens. Um, but no, I like his uncertainty as the young version of him, and I like his extreme certainty as the older version of himself because he's made his way to that better version of himself. I think it works.
Yeah, I agree. I was like, oh, this is cute. And I was like, especially when he's like, I did the calculations wrong, and yeah, he's like, it like it brought my latent genes forward, and I was like, welcome, Beast.
Yeah, you just had funny feet before. Now head to toe you're a
Especially
blue beast.
when he
Yes.
growls at Havoc because he was just like, I know what your new name should be, Beast. And he was like, you're a badass. And it was like, holy shit.
Shit.
I was
Right?
like, I'm like, very attractive, sir, very attractive. I'm like, yeah,
Give
but
me a little growl there. Yes.
ooh, stop flirting with me. Just like, so,
So wrong. So much wrong there. Yes.
something much I can do at this point. But yeah, no, I thought that there was a lot that the franchise did right and that they've been able to move forward with. I'm interested to see if they pick up anything in the future. But yeah, I was just like,
Yeah.
a lot of casting choices were done correctly, and hopefully Aurora gets fixed at some point down the line. I don't
Mhm.
see it going if they can't get Angela Bassett
Yeah,
for
but I
Black
think
Panther, then yeah.
yeah, I think Angela Bassett would be good as Storm still, but like an older Storm. But if they want like a young Storm, yeah, I feel like they're gonna have to hire. I feel like it's time for them to pick like a no-name person and bring them into those roles. Yeah.
There's like there's a lot of untapped talent there, so they could be like for a certain bone structure and poise and uh muscular trophy. No, nope, that's not the word there.
Musculature.
We can try that one. And yeah, they're like, oh, we'll make this work. And it's like, okay, cool beans.
Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know if they're gonna do another straight off X-Men movie. I would like it. I don't want it to be like Superman or Spider-Man where they just start rebooting everything from beginning again. But like I would like another X-Men movie.
I think that if they did another X-Men, I would like them to focus on um a new set of characters and for someone else to be like the main focus. So if they decided to, and maybe like it's when Storm comes in and it becomes like her journey with the team kind of thing and making it a bigger thing because then they can also tie in Black Panther and all that kind of stuff, which would be pretty cool. But
Mhm.
there's a lot of places that they can go. Well, it'll be interesting to see if they do tap any of that.
Ooh, yeah, because doesn't Storm and Black Panther have a relationship
Yes,
in
they
the
do.
comics? Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do.
Yes, they do.
They need to. Ooh, oh, maybe it's a X-Men love story, and it's
No.
about. You're like, no, I'm shutting this down. No.
Shut it down. Shut it down. Like, oh no. This podcast is supposed to be PG. Fucking hell, Tracy. Talk about love stories. It's just like, yeah, if they get it going. We just talked about Rogue and Bobby literally getting hot and heavy.
Yeah,
So
but these two
it
people can
works.
touch each other, so yeah, it can get hot and heavy.
Oh my God. And they'll probably end up having
Ooh.
as much chemistry as friggin' Rogue, Jean and Cyclops. So it'll be like,
Oh God, please no.
I'd rather get teeth pulled. Especially because Mystique and Magneto had chemistry, sexual chemistry there. And I was like, this is okay. So with Professor X, they're like siblings. And with Magneto, I don't know if you guys are like about to go and bang in a closet somewhere because he's like, you're
But
beautiful. And
but
I'm like,
she
this,
did try to quote unquote seduce him, and he was like,
and
no.
I was like, is this because it's a PG movie? It's because it's PG.
Well, but also in the timeline, she's like 15 years younger than him or something.
Is that all? Oh
Yeah.
no. Hollywood can't make that work. What? No. Oh shit.
Inappropriate.
It's like
Inappropriate,
they
madam.
will. They'll be like, we're just gonna jump a little bit in the timeline. Now she's 17, going on 18. Perfectly
Uh,
acceptable.
yeah. I don't know. Uh, I mean, you would still recommend all these movies to people, right? Or most of them?
Actually, yeah. No, I don't think this is a franchise where I'd be like, yeah, I don't think there's no they give you enough in a backstory. They could also watch it in um chronological or release order. They can watch it in franchise order and be like, oh, um, there's enough for them to for anyone to be like, I get enough from this and it's fine. There's there if they really like Logan and want to delve into like his solo missions and hate watch his two solo movies, then there's that. If they were like, we want something a little bit better, they can always jump over to the Deadpool side of things. But yeah, I think that this isn't a franchise that I'd be like, maybe. It still is a standalone that for the most part can stand the test of time.
Mhm.
And it depends on how far you want to go. So like the old ones still hold up till today.
They still hold up, yeah.
And the newer ones you can stop after two and you're fine. Just you're fine. But if
The
you're like,
thing,
oh, there's two more, watch
yeah,
at your own risk.
yeah. I'd be like, look, watch these six. You can skip these two. Watch the rest you can watch at your leisure.
Really, at your leisure. Because
Yes,
like when you get to the last two, you'll watch them and forget what the hell you just watched. But
immediately.
it's
Yeah,
fine.
it's
You're
fine.
okay. But yeah, no, it's something I would recommend. Yeah.
Yeah. I mostly agree with you. I'd be like, stay away from New Mutants. The rest of it's fine.
Oh, I didn't even include that.
Already forgot about it.
Yeah,
So
no,
it's
I'd be
gone.
like, I think that New Mutants, I would completely be like, there was no point in watching that. Maybe that's a waste of time. I'd be like, it'd be like a you choose, and he'd be like, New Mutants or Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix, definitely.
Exactly. So like
Yeah.
you get a lot more bang for your buck with Dark Phoenix, but I'm
But
like
also
maybe
walking out of Dark Phoenix, you'd be like, what did I just look at? I don't
literally
know.
there's a lot of them. So I think that yeah, no, they're both they're all of it is like something that I'm like there's something there for everyone, and it's still fine in its own little standalones, and they're not too long either. So like you're like these are quick versus now movies are like damn near 3 to 5 hours, and you're like okay, so I need half the day to watch this.
You
Like
got to
I'm
get
lost
all your
after the
snack.
first hour.
You got to get all your
Oh,
snacks around you and all your beverages, you
worse.
know.
You get like halfway through and you're like, it's still not done. We're at the climax. This is awful. It's like pulling teeth, and you're just like, oh my God, just end already. Yeah, no, I can't. Anything more than like 2 hours, and I'm like, oh no, no. Someone spoil it at this point. I can't. No, I don't
Just
have the
tell me the
attention span.
ending. Just tell me the ending. It's
And I'll
done.
be like, Tracy, good or bad? Thumbs up, thumbs down. You'd be like, it was awful. Surprise, surprise.
Like, so it's good then. I'll watch it. I know you. I know you.
Like, yeah.
Uh, well, Georgia, thank you so much for being on this week to have this fantastic X-Men discussion.
You're so welcome for for being able to be graced with my presence.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Well, I guess possibly you could beg me to come back on again at a later time.
You're
We'll
already
see what
give out
happens.
because you just love me that much. You're welcome. See, I told you. I was like, I'm going to be one of your best guests ever because I'm going to give you all of the things. And now you're like, oh my God, okay, you get see, you're trying not to say that I begged, but you're already putting down people. It's not me, it's her. Let's
Oh
just
my
get that
God.
up here.
Oh my God.
She's fucking nuts.
Oh, they know that last part already. Oh yeah.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, if they've gotten this far into podcast and haven't realized that yet, there's
Oh
there's a
no.
real issue. I'm not putting out my brand correctly then.
Unhinged with Tracy. This is why she's dusting on a shelf.
Yes.
But uh anytime, as long as we find like a very good movie that I'm interested in,
Mhm.
then I'll be like, sure. Otherwise, I'll be like, now I'm gonna buy you a movie for the shelf, and we're gonna discuss this one instead. Thank
That's
you so.
not how this works.
You underestimate me. Like, leave this spot for 2027 for someone else. 2026, we're gonna do this one. Thanks so much. That's what's gonna happen.
Oh, all right. Thank you. Bye. Well, that's it for this episode of Off My Shelf. Until next time, you can follow along on Instagram and Blue Sky at Oh My Shelf, or you can send an email to ohmyshelf@gmail.com. This episode was produced and edited by me, Tracy, with original theme song by Ori Falconer. If you want to support the show, like, subscribe, and leave a comment wherever you listen to this podcast. Come back next time to see what falls off my shelf.